As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff, Boone, Lukas, and Gentry. It is a victory, not Monday, but Tuesday.
Victory Tuesday, baby.
The Detroit Lions won. Tigers won. This is like a double victory, but one's in the playoffs, of course, which is significant. We will talk about that. But boom, the Lions took down the Seahawks. Seahawks have beat them 6 straight times, and the Lions have finally got their revenge.
Hey.
It took some time, but hey.
Yes. It took time. I'm going to tell you guys what. After 3 weeks, there was a lot of people that were hating on the Detroit Lions, saying, oh, they need the defense, the offense, Jared Goff, this, that. Oh, the Booner Path was in trouble. Kept hearing that, Jeff. A lot of Booner Path was in trouble. A lot of road bumps, detours. Guess what? Back on track. The Booner Path, the Detroit Lions. Juicy J, we are back. Things are off rolling. The Detroit Lions, they are. And I'm gonna say this a million times this show, so get used to it. And if you disagree with me, guess what? I don't care. Do not care. The Detroit Lions right now are the best team in football. The best team in football. They look like the Super Bowl team that we're all thinking they were. They are back. The defense will figure that out. I don't think it was as big of a problem as what people thought or what they saw. I think we're a little better than what people think on that side of the ball. They're back, though. They are completely back. Detroit Lions, Super Bowl contenders, the best team in football. Lock it in, Jeff. I can't wait to talk about it. So many good things happened yesterday. So many good things.
No, it was great. I mean, we'll get to our power rankings. It's top 10 Tuesdays.
Shout out to Tigers, too.
Yeah, we'll get to who we think the best team in the NFL is and currently in the NFL, which I cannot wait. We're going to disagree a lot. It's going to be a great segment. We'll do that at 9 o'clock. But right now, to your point, the Lions, at least offensively, got back to what we knew them to be, which is a very explosive offense, big plays. I mean, it seemed like the Lions, I know with J-Mo, there's always big plays, but in general, it seemed like they got all their big plays in one game. Like that we've been waiting on this whole season. They got a ton of big plays. Jared Goff only had to throw, he was 18 of 18, but almost 300 yards. You had D-Mont, 40-yard reception. J-Mo with the 70-yard reception. You're having these explosive plays, and that's honestly the offense that we know what they are. They're explosive. We get that. Defensively, though, and I'm sure we'll get to this more later in the show, I thought the first half was what they can and will be. The second half, and I have an explanation on that, which I'm not going to say now, but I'll get to later. But it was a massive win. Again, I mean, and this is for NFC implications. I mean, the Seahawks were undefeated. The Vikings are still undefeated. They take on the Jets over in Europe.
Yep.
But still, for the NFC, this is great. For your division, this is great. And the Seahawks still a very good team. They just had injuries, and the Lions were the better team. And who cares? Because the Lions had injuries as well. They were without Frank Ragnow, one of the best centers in the NFL, and they still got it done. So I don't know if you've seen all the Seahawk fans coming out and talking.
I mean, you could say what you want. It's you just win a game, because if you win that game, then they're saying, oh, well, and we could easily have gone back at them. Well, we're out without Brian Branch, without Frank Ragnow, Marcus Davenport, Derek Barnes. Like, there are a lot of people that are injured on both sides of the ball. Guess what? That's the NFL. You find a way to win a game, and no matter if you lose or win, you're not going to sit there all year long and be like, oh, well, injury. Like, there are injuries every week. There's an injury report that's constantly going on every single team. Like, every single team has an injury report. So that does not matter whatsoever. You find a way to win with whoever's in and whoever's out. Like, the only one that you could say, like, hey, if Geno Smith was out or DK was out, like, that's when you can really. But, like, we had Brian Branch out. We had Marcus Davenport and Derek Barnes out, 3 of our guys on defense. Guess what our offense did? Our offense stepped up and helped out and figured out a way to do it. So, listen, you could say all of that. I just think, like, being able to see this Lions team, there were a lot of conversations through the first 3 weeks, like what's going on with the offense, what's happening. I know we're going to get into it throughout the show and break it down a little bit more. Just knowing, though, that this offense was already kind of getting put together. And yeah, it was going to take time. It would, yes, it would be lovely if that thing happened week 1 and we were clicking week 1, but it took a couple weeks. And you finally got to see. I kept saying pregame last week, all week long, every single day leading up to the Seahawks game. The one thing I said is it feels like things are starting to come together because you had the first couple weeks of JMO. Then you had the next couple weeks of the run game and Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta. Now you put all that together, then you start getting this legit offense that you see out of the Detroit Lions. And that's like what Ben put it all together this weekend. Like he was able to figure it out. And like people should be scared. And we're going to talk offense later in the show. I have some stats and some things to kind of look at. The NFL should be looking at it and going, yeah, this is not good for, like, the Chiefs are like, oh, no. Like, we don't want to see these guys in the Super Bowl. Like, everyone in the NFC, the way the Eagles are playing, we thought the Eagles would be contenders. They don't want to see the Lions in the postseason. They might not even be in the postseason. The Vikings, the way everyone's talking about that, you're telling the Vikings don't want to see the Detroit Lions at their best. Like, these teams don't. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and I had so many Vikings fans in my comments this weekend or within the last 24 hours.
Talking.
Oh, man, it's ridiculous. People being like, well, how are they the best team in football? And, like, putting the standings there. It's like, all right, cool. Like, not the 4-0 team isn't always better than a 3-1 team.
Yeah.
Like, let's watch the film. Let's talk about some football here, buddy, Vikings fans. So, yeah, I'm not. I mean, I think what we saw was very, very – it was exciting to see. I know, obviously, on the defensive side, there's some things that probably can get cleaned up. I do think, Jeff, and I know we have segments and all these things. I don't think that defensively it's like as big of a worry as what we saw last night.
I don't want to get – I'm not going to get into it because we have a whole segment dedicated to it. But I just wanted to address, like, because it's not even Broski Bear. Like, oh, yeah, the Lions are so good. They let up over 500 yards of offense at home. What a defense. Oh, wait, Carlton Davis. I just got another flag. If you're actually – that joke would work if you use Terrion Arnold. Just little advice there for you, Broski Bear, just for that part. But the other part, they basically – and Lukas said this, and I think he nailed it. And you could join right after this, Lukas. I just want to mention the Tampa Bay game. The Lions had more offense across the board, better offensive statistics, better offensive numbers, but they lost because they were 1-7 in the red zone. They were 5 of 5 against the Seattle Seahawks. So it's not all about like, oh, well, you know, the Buccaneers gave up all these yards to the Lions. Like the Buccaneers are bad. No, and you would even bring that up for the Lions. I mean, they scored quicker. That's why the time of possession's different. They weren't giving up any big plays to Seattle, so that's why Seattle had the time of possession, all the yards. Yeah. So again, not saying the defense played great, but the offense scoring quickly, as great as that is, it kind of did hurt the defense a little bit because they were gassed, absolutely gassed. So that's why, and I truly believe this. Stats don't tell the full story. Like, and that's why you got to watch stat watching. It's like, oh, well, this, I hate, using that, watch the game, but it is really true. The Lions just couldn't tackle to save their life in the second half. I mean, they just couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
penalties.
I would chalk that up to more being fatigued or tired, not focused, etc., rather than being like, oh, their defense is bad. They held the Seahawks to 7 points. I mean,
in the first half, yeah. I mean, even think about it, like not even just the fatigue side of it, things like, and even the penalties there. Like if you're tired, your time of possession is a 10-minute difference, especially when you're up. Your defense is out there the whole time. Like the secondary, they're going to be holding because they're maybe a step behind, like things like that. So like, yeah, the defense this week, there are times it's struggled, but when I'm like looking at all right, the best teams and all of that, like let's look at this 4-week span here. The offense has gotten back on track. You know what the offense is, and you've seen the defense at their best at times. And now if they find a way, it's the same thing with the way the offense was the first 3 weeks. If the Detroit Lions find a way to get this defense all in sync at once and they figure this thing out, the defense is top 10. Like it's going to be a top 10 defense, and you add that with the top 10 offense, and you add those things together. I'm not really worried at all about the defense. I know we're getting into all that throughout the show. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we could start, and I would love to get into it now, at least some of the things that stuck out to you. I mean, it could be offense and defense because we'll do more deep dives.
Can I just shout out the Tigers real quick? I want to give a shout out to the Tigers.
Yeah, you know what? Go ahead because, Booner, I watched the game today, and I'm just continuing to be impressed. I mean, it is wild. And Tarek Skubal.
Yeah.
That guy, he's different. I mean, he's different. Watching him, I mean, it's even for someone that I'm not a huge baseball fan, but he impresses me. I mean, it's ridiculous what he can do. It is.
He's the best. You have the best pitcher in baseball on your team.
Wild.
And like I told you I called you right after the game was over, and it was just like it got close down the end. They had a chance to kind of tie it up, or even have a chance to win the game down the stretch in the bottom of the ninth. And the fact they're able to get out of that, like, and I said it to you, like, if they lose the Scooball game, you're essentially like the series is over. It's you have to win the next two. You have to win 2 in a row without Scooball. That's tough to do for the Tigers versus another playoff team. They were able to squeak this one out. Scooball was unbelievable. First of all, like, this guy is insane. And just like when Scooball plays, just give him 3 runs, you win the game. And everyone out here, like almost everyone, I put a bet on the game today. I just sprinkled a little bit on from the Lions winnings last night, and like I had Torkelson a hit. Basically, everyone in the lineup had a hit besides Torque, like essentially, like besides the guys who subbed in and pinch hit. Like, so everyone had a big game. Like, all you have to do is just win one out of the next 2. It's unbelievable what's going on with the Tigers. They can, like, the next series is a 3-game series. If you have Scooball, you have a chance to win any 3-game series. You just win game 1, or like he might have to go game 2. You win game 2, and then you're sitting there and you're like, all right, we just have to get another one without Scooball. We're winning this thing. So it's unbelievable. Hopefully he did get hit in the hand. Hopefully he's good. It was his his offhand, so that's good.
Yeah, and he still, I mean, threw that thing to first base. We're still following the hit. I mean, he was still locked in. So it was great. It was great.
Great game. Hey, Detroit has a playoff team and they won a playoff game. Like the Pistons, I'm not going to get into negatives because this is a positive.
Yeah, no.
My bad. Victory Tuesday for the Lions and the Tigers. Shout out both of the teams, man.
So
we have some teams in Detroit now.
Yeah, we do. And it's fun to be able to talk about 2 good teams. I mean, even, and again, to the Lions-Seahawks game, I thought for me, watching the game, and we had our Sunday, or really our Monday programming this week, which you guys should always tune into, by the way, Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, whenever the Lions play. We cover it all day. So we have to talk about it. We recapped a lot of it. But I now continue to say this point. I to your point about the Lions and how good they can be, this offense, when it's clicking, it is the most impressive offense in the NFL. Like, for how explosive they can do so many different things. And I know you watch a lot of these former NFL players that break down film and have their own podcasts. A lot of people have given credit to the Lions offense. Like Kurt Warner tweeted something out, I think a week or 2 ago, praising the Lions offense. And you have the best offensive line in football. They didn't have Frank Ragnow, but they were still very good. You have a quarterback in Jared who's very good. When he's protected, he goes to another level, like a lot of quarterbacks. You have the best running back duo in the NFL. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, if you want to say top 5, top 6, wherever he is, he's up there. Sam Laporta, who hasn't really been fully Sam Laporta because of the weapons they have. They haven't really used him a ton. And he's been kind of injured a little bit, but we know what Sam Laporta is, one of the best tight ends in the league. Jamison Williams is an emerging wide receiver, very talented. He's one of the fastest players in the league on offense. It's ridiculous to watch this man run. He's hard enough to stop, and he's a great route runner, underrated route runner, to be honest with you. Like, he gets open, but he's so fast and he's so twitchy that these DBs, I mean, he's keeping guys up at night. So to have these weapons, and then you sprinkle in Tim Patrick, who's very serviceable, and a guy that they are relying on more and more every week. When this offense is fully clicking and Ben Johnson is in his bag and he's dialing up the right plays, the script is perfect. You have Jared who, you look at Jared and you think, okay, what do we have to do to put him in a position to be successful? They figured it out already through the first couple of years here. I mean, with Ben, ever since he took over as OC, you have those running backs, you pound the football. You honestly make it a physical game. You set up play action. You allow Jared to be comfortable, one of the best, if not the best quarterback in play action. In that game against the Seahawks, in the first half against the Cardinals, ironically, both games, Jared was perfect. What did they do? They ran the ball effectively. They put Jared in a position to succeed. And honestly, the play calling was damn near perfect. There's a couple things you look at, we were talking about on the watch party. We're like, I don't know about that one. There's probably always plays Ben wishes he would have back, but this offense is starting to get rolling. And I'm telling you guys, this defense has been keeping them in games this season. And the defense in the second half slipped a little bit. The offense said, hey, we got you. We'll keep scoring. And they did. And they obviously won. And they scored 2 points. When they get this thing together, and you have that defense that is starting to show up, despite the second half. But if they could be a top 10 defense and you have a top 5 offense with this coaching staff, and you have they still have a majority of their guys healthy, a couple guys banged up, a couple guys out for a couple games, but they still have the main guys, the pillars. Dude, this team, everything we thought about them before the season, it's just continuing to be proven right. And I know it's still early. There's still a lot of games. People, of course, are going to always overreact. But Booner, I learned more about the Lions. And again, we were waiting on this offense. Just seeing it all together in the first half, you're like, oh yeah, Seahawks team's very good. And I get they had some injuries. I don't care. They still had their main guys, especially offensively. I'm thinking this is a damn good team. And you look around the league and see some of the great teams kind of struggling. I mean, the Chiefs had a one possession game with the Chargers. Chargers are good. They're fine. But it's like, this thing is wide open. The NFC right now is wide open. The Vikings are not going to go undefeated. I promise you that. And the Seahawks, you just beat an undefeated team. Like, this thing is wide open, and the Lions are starting to click at the perfect time. So it's great. And they have a bye week, get some guys healthy. And then next week, when they make game plan for Dallas, like, it's go time, dude. This NFC right now, especially with the 49ers looking the way they look, they don't have McCaffrey, and I don't think they'll have him for the whole year. The Eagles, those are the two teams we thought Boone would be the teams, and they're both struggling. Like, the 49ers beat the Patriots. Like, okay, congrats. You won a cookie. You just beat the Patriots. The Lions are doing great, man, and they're right where they're supposed to be right now. They're just fine.
That's where I think the biggest at least for me, like my biggest takeaway from this game is everyone was, there were people that were taking the Lions, putting them in like 9th in the power rankings. So I saw some at some points outside the top 10. When you're sitting there and you're looking at that and you're like, all right, this Lions team's legit. What's going on? Like, why? How are they not playing up to what they what they're expected to? When you look at other teams right now, the improvement really isn't there. I talked about the Chiefs on the post-game show, how they're like, yeah, they're 4-0. They're winning these one-possession games that they probably shouldn't be winning. And, like, maybe it's because they have Patrick Mahomes and a lot of people you see on social media, like the refs and all these different things, like they're getting the calls going their way. The ball is bouncing their way. And it's like, are they improving from week 1 to week 4? No, not really. Like, they look like the same team from week 1 to week 4. They have talent, but they're losing players too from injury. With the Lions, it's like, yeah, you have seen from week 1 to week 4 the progress. The offense slowly started off. You're still sitting there at 2-1 going into this week. And then your offense explodes to what you think the offense is supposed to be and to a top 5 offense. Like, the offense, if the offense does it what they did on Monday Night Football every single week, which obviously you're not going to see that 18 for 18 for
40%, 70%.
Yes. If you go out there and you get a little bit, like if you get that for 4 quarters or get 80% of that for 4 quarters, that's the best offense in the NFL. Like last year, the best offense in the NFL was the Dolphins. They're nothing right now. Like they are nothing. The Lions were the 3rd best offense. The 49ers are going through stuff with CMC. The Chiefs are going through stuff with Rashee Rice. The Lions right now, if they are healthy and they are sitting there just getting better and better each week, that is the best offense in the NFL. I see Broski Bear said too. He said it's a long season, Booner. Just because a team doesn't improve from week 1 to week 4 doesn't mean they won't improve the rest of it. Never said that it doesn't mean they won't improve. But I'm looking at a team getting better, a team that had a slow start, and they are getting into their groove all of a sudden, and we're seeing what they can be. The Lions, like that was something we haven't seen out of the Lions through the first 3 weeks. All of a sudden, boom, you see it, and you're like, oh, this team can be scary. Like all of those conversations, all of those people out there, we're picking the Lions to win the Super Bowl. The first 3 weeks, they're probably sitting back like, oh, man, like, what did I do? And then on Monday night, national television, they all go, that's why I did it. Like, that's exactly why I picked the Lions to win the Super Bowl. That's exactly why. And they're the best team in the NFC right now. I don't care who's 4-0. I really don't. And I will get into our power rankings tonight. I just think if this offense is doing what they're doing, there is no team in the NFL that'll beat the Detroit Lions. And especially if this defense and AG can figure something out. So, like, the biggest takeaway to me is the improvement from Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, and those guys to say, hey, head down and just go. Dan said it after the game yesterday. We're not going to look around who any other team in the NFL is doing. Let's put our head down and just worry about the next team and run to the next team. And Dan Campbell is the best in the NFL, might be in the best of all sports, being able to take a team and be like, just focus on this, boys. Like, as soon as you're going into the season, he's like, he has a meeting with them and says, cut out the Super Bowl talk. Like, we don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about just 1 week at a time. And I said, what did you say, Jeff? I'll handle the Super Bowl talk as a fan. I'll handle it here on Crunch Time, the Booner Path. Let me talk about the Super Bowl talk. You guys go win football games. That's what they did. They look very, very good. Like, this is the offense. I would say this too, Jeff. The offense last night, that was better than I've ever seen the Detroit Lions offense last season, it felt.
Oh, it was the best game by far.
I've never seen in this Detroit Lions offense, we've seen great games over the last year or two under Ben Johnson. That was the best game we have ever seen out of a Detroit Lions offense over the last few years. And that's not like that is legit. That is not over an exaggeration. That was a great game. And if they just improve off of that and figure out what worked, they're going to be just fine. That's a Super Bowl winning team.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you score 40 and your quarterback's perfect. They didn't have an incompletion the entire game.
Yeah.
Recorded at least. But yeah, I mean, that's of course. Yeah, I'm with you there. Let's bring in Klotzy. Let's get Klotzy. Hey, Klotzy.
Boys, hey, can you hear me well?
You sound great. You look great.
Okay.
You look. Hey, how you feeling, my guy?
Alcatraz. Hey, great victory Tuesday. It's not a victory Monday, but you'll take victory Tuesday, especially after 6 time of meeting with the Seattle Seahawks, and you finally get that monkey off your back. Third quarter woes gone. Offense looked back on track, and defensively, a little shaky, but it just doesn't matter when you get the W. No. So I love it. None of that. I saw somebody else comment while I was waiting. That Colin Cowherd BS. I don't know if you guys have been hearing what he's been saying.
I ignored it.
I don't know how you can give this Detroit team prop. Seattle, all 4 of their starting defensive linemen out, and I was shocked by the way they came out in the second. Like, shut up, dude. Like, if this was like we always talk about, a win is a win. This was a 3-0 team. You're acting like the Detroit Lions didn't have injuries both on the offensive and defensive side. But I watched that earlier, and it just made me lose my mind.
And this is the perspective that Colin doesn't have, and it's something we talk about a lot. The third quarter woes have been a consistent issue during Ben Johnson's tenure. And it's just it's always been a thing. I don't know why. This offense struggles in the third quarter. I don't know why. The game was perfectly balanced offensively. First half, they scored 21. Second half, they scored 21. Third quarter, they score 14. The fourth quarter, they sprinkle in another touchdown. Like they just kept scoring every quarter. There wasn't a quarter where it was like, here we go. Second half of Arizona didn't score a point. A lot of games during Ben's tenure where they just kind of go MIA in the third quarter. They didn't have that. Like that to me is improvement. It's one game, but it's like, against the Seattle defense, which yes, they were without some defensive alignment, but guess what? One of the best secondaries in the NFL, and they were healthy. And Jarrett still lit them up.
18 for 18. They didn't have one pass breakup?
No.
Where's that credit at? Like,
yeah. I mean, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like that's something that, okay, their defensive line was out. All right, Jared Goff had some extra time. But, dude, he went 18 for 18, and he cut that secondary up that everyone was talking about going into the game is, are they going to dominate and stop Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo, this? Like, no, they didn't stop not one. Literally, they didn't stop one person. They were perfect. And like Colin Cowherd, I don't want to say what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to say it.
Great host.
What a clown.
I love him.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, has Goff on the show for a reason.
Yeah,
I don't listen to Colin Cowherd like Jeff does.
He says a lot of dumb things, just like a lot of people. I mean, this is I say some dumb things. You know, I talk for a lot. I don't say.
I'll let you know.
I don't try and take credit away. I get, and it seems to be a common theme for the Lions for whatever reason. I see like people in the chat brought up, and I saw this comment too. Devin, Richard Sherman, and Unk kind of pissed me off talking about the Lions too. And I love Shannon, that's the other guy. Feels like everyone I watch typically does not give the Lions much credit, but it is, if you want to, but again, these are people that look at it and be like, oh, well, the Seahawks had a lot of yards. It's like, yeah, but again, what came of it? The Lions won the turnover battle. They scored efficiently and quickly. Like, they were just the better team. They were better coached. Like, I don't understand where you're going. I
say something real quick? Why in week 2, when the Detroit Lions lose to the Bucs, why in week 2 when they lose to the Bucs and double their yardages and they literally Jeff, people say something. They go at the Detroit Lions and say, why are the Detroit Lions, are they frauds? Are they real? Are they legit? And everyone goes at them. But then, when the Seahawks does it they lose a game and they put more yards up than the Detroit Lions. It's, the Lions are frauds because they won a game and only had 300 yards, but they had 500. Like what are we doing? That you're picking both sides there. I bet you I could go get a clip of Colin Cowherd saying something negative about the Detroit Lions after that, and I could get him saying something about the Lions and propping up the Seahawks after what the Seahawks just did. That the Lions literally did in week 2, and everyone was calling the Detroit Lions a fraud, and they were going at the Lions and questioning their offense and questioning the defense and questioning this and questioning that. But then when the Seahawks are in that same position, they had 500 plus yards and we only had 300. Oh, now it's like let's give the Seahawks a little bit credit. But 2 weeks ago, we didn't want to give the Detroit Lions credit off that loss. So it's what are we doing here? It's like a pick and choose type of deal. It's let's watch the football game and see how that thing happened, how it happened.
And Eric says congratulations to your bunch from a Seahawks fan. Well, Eric, appreciate you.
Thank you, Eric.
And I try again. I understand we have a lot of Lions fans that watch this show. Obviously, we predominantly talk Lions in Detroit sports. But I always try to take the bias out of it. But there is a part of it that comes with just stating a fact. And the fact is the Lions they won that game and they looked impressive. Like when you try to diminish things, you could point out things like the defense in the second half did not look good. Is it like this reason that to panic and everything's falling down? No, because if you watch the 3 prior games, the defense looked very good. So that's where I struggle with that.
I do think there was some takeaway. Are we still on the takeaway stuff here? Because I'll do a takeaway on the defense. Jack Campbell looked very good. Kirby Joseph, but I think Jack Campbell, we've talked about all year long, Jack taking a step forward. It felt like that was finally a game where Jack took a step. And it was like he did it with Enzo on the field as well. And the forced fumble, that was probably one of the biggest plays of the game to kind of get the momentum. The momentum was already going, but it's like, hey, this really pulls it over to where it's, hey, the Detroit Lions are going to dominate this game. As soon as that happened, I don't know if you guys remember on the stream, I'm like, let's just win this game by 40. Let's go dominate this game. And Jack Campbell, all game long, he was everywhere. Carlton, even though he had some penalties and stuff, I thought he was good. But my takeaway on defense was a guy Jack. I thought Jack was really, really good last night.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he could have done more in pass coverage a little bit because you saw a lot of tight ends and even little checkdowns through the zone coverage. But that's obviously Chino just reading the defense. But Jack did take a step last night. He played better than Alex Anzalone. I understand that Anzo's coming off an injury, but that's what you want to see. Even if it's situationally throughout the game, especially in the first half, Jack was the defensive MVP. He made on those first 3 drives for Seattle, Jack Campbell made a play on all 3 of them, and he finished it off with that forced fumble. So without Jack, the Detroit Lions did not win that game. I think that could have been said somewhat in the past, but I think that's definitely the clear case after watching the game because they don't hold the Seahawks to 7 if he doesn't make the plays that he does in that first half.
Yeah, and again, I think another guy that continued to impress guys, and it was a huge performance for him, was Jared Goff. Jared Goff yesterday was perfect. He just again and we talked about this today. We put out a video on Crunch Time, and you guys can go watch it go back and watch it whenever. But I think the big thing for me, Lucas, is people and I get fans, and I do this. We always look for the next best thing. It's what sports are about. Typically, impatient fans that always want the next best thing. I fall victim to that sometimes as well. But here's the reality: Jared Goff, a very good quarterback, very good. And I think typically, unless you're a Chiefs fan or a Bills fan, or depending on who you ask, maybe a Bengals fan, maybe a Chargers fan, whoever. I'm just naming some quarterbacks. You're pretty comfortable. And you're like, I like my quarterback. But for whatever reason, the 20 plus whatever teams, most fans are like, oh, we want that. We want the sports car. We want the Patrick Mahomes. We want the Josh Allens of the world. Here's the reality. Okay, here's the reality. It is damn near impossible to replicate those guys. That's why Mahomes, he doesn't grow on trees. He's one of one. Same with Josh Allen. Same with even Herbert's not on that level, but very good quarterback. But I'll just go Chiefs and Bills. 30 teams. You can't have that guy. Okay. But you look at who can I get? Jared Goff is the next best thing, dude. He is the next best thing. When he's protected, like a lot of quarterbacks, when he has weapons, when he has a good play caller, again, like a lot of quarterbacks. You look around, guys don't have great coordinators. Look what happens. Jalen Hurts in Philly. Look how he looks without Shane Steichen. It's just a fact. You have a very good quarterback. again, who has a lot of experience. He's played in a Super Bowl. He's played in NFC Championship games. He is someone that you feel comfortable paying. You don't have to worry about. Like, I have to worry about Deshaun Watson every time a game ends. I don't have to worry about Jared Goff. Like, I just don't have to worry about him. You know what he is. He's a leader. He's someone that's very accurate. He's someone that can lead an offense. He's someone that's played in different systems, someone that's very intelligent. And I think even with Hendon Hooker, because we've had this conversation a ton of times, and I've always liked what Hendon Hooker brought to the table, but I was always very honest with what Goff was. I said, hey, they're going to pay him, and they should pay him, because guys like Goff, it's hard to find. Now, if you want to project someone to be like that, like I was talking about Hendon Hooker, and I was like, I really like Hendon Hooker. I think he'd be very good. Or if you're looking in the draft and you're like, I think this guy can be very good. Yeah, you can have those arguments, but you have a proven product. You have a proven top 10 quarterback. Like, we always say this when we talk about Goff. I think 22 to 23 teams in the NFL would take him right now over their current quarterback. I do believe that thoroughly. Maybe you'd go 20 with now some rookies. Jay and Daniels, they're happy with him. But most teams would be like, I'll take Goff right now. And that's the reality. So for Goff to have that performance, it is amazing, and it's impressive. But I think when he has these type of performances, I think it's important for fans to kind of just remind themselves, like, oh, yeah, we have a good quarterback. Like, we have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC, if not the best, and you have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's a top 10 quarterback. So
yes,
it was great to see. It was great for Goff. I'm happy for him to do that. I think he's like one of 3 guys to ever in his career throw a passing touchdown, run for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown. Like, it was great for him to catch a touchdown as well. But yeah, I thought that performance was needed just for Goff's confidence to get that back, given the second half of the Cardinals game did not look good. But as long as this man is protected, like, you see it. And even when he was getting pressure, guys, like he's spinning around the 360 no scope, whatever it was. I mean, the guy can do it all. All right. And he's very good. So again, I just think it's important for fans when you see a performance like that. Just, hey, you got a good quarterback. Great performance by Goff.
I think
real quick, but just because I just want to go off of what Jeff was just saying. If Jared Goff plays inside the pocket like he did last night, the Detroit Lions will win a Super Bowl. That's why Jared Goff is always knocked for his lack of athletic ability. But same thing with like Tom Brady. That's what made him so good. Now, he's not Tom Brady, but his footwork, his presence in the pocket, his ability to extend plays inside the pocket last night looked like Tom Brady, looked like Peyton Manning, looked like the quarterbacks who knew, hey, I'm not athletic. I'm not extending the play outside the pocket and throwing 30 yards down the field. Jared Goff, what he did is like, all right, I saw the first 3 weeks, like I think even more so than previously, like Jared Goff kind of looked soft isn't the word to do it, but just out of sync. And last night, he was just in rhythm. He was able to extend the play, hit his playmakers in stride, and let them work after. And that's what he needs to do. And if he keeps doing it to that level, without a doubt, he's a guy that could be winning a Super Bowl for this team.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the Jared Goff stuff, and I know what it is, and I've talked about it for the last 2 weeks as all of this is going on. It's people are so quick to write guys off. And like Jared Goff, like the tweets is saying like, you know, a couple weeks ago he has a bad game. Why are we changing Jared Goff's name? Why are people still high on Goff? The Hooker tweets, like all of that, like it's nonsense to a point. Like Jeff, like you said, there's the top tier guys and then there's the next level. And you have one of those next level at the top of his game on your football team right now. And like guys aren't going to be perfect. Going through those 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks, when you lose that game and the second half of last week, like guys aren't going to be perfect. We saw last year Jared Goff play great football to start the year, go through a stretch of football, and then go to an NFC Championship game and win a division. And we saw that. But do you remember last year when he went through that 2-game stretch or 3-game stretch, every single person wanted to get rid of Jared Goff in those moments until he went and won the NFC North again and went to the NFC Championship game. So many people, I have so many receipts of people writing him off, saying he's done. Why is he our quarterback? And it's like, this is what I hate about it, especially in the world that we're in, talking every day. Like, I'm not going to say that you have to pick a side, but like, let's not just flip-flop back and forth to, oh, when he plays well, you can win with him. And then when he plays bad, there's no way you can win with him. It's just like, what are we doing here? So I do think there's a sense, like, you saw what Jared Goff can do last night. Jeff, we talked about it earlier today. We did a small video, and the conversation me and you had, it was like, there's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then there's other guys after that. And obviously there's the CJ Strouds and all that. But when you get after, unless you have a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, then you look at it and you go, okay, what's the next best thing?
Jared Goff is a guy that can win you. You know, when he plays at his best, you will win. You can win a Super Bowl and you can go win football games. You have that in Detroit. There's no reason to move on from that unless you're guaranteed to get Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. There's no reason. So the fans that instantly, as soon as he has a bad game, he's the worst. We don't want him in Detroit. It's terrible. It's the worst. And you saw last night, everyone saw it with their own eyes. And guess what's going to happen again, guys? He's probably going to have a bad game at some point this season. Or are you guys going to try and remember this game, or all you're going to remember is an interception? Because he's going to throw another interception this year. That's going to happen. So I think people need to start taking a step back a little bit, especially certain people who love to have this quarterback conversation and, the guy needs everything around him. Like, yeah, welcome to football. You need to put a team around someone to win a game, and you need to win a Super Bowl. Unless you have the best of the best, you need to build the right team. That's how you win Super Bowl. Hey, welcome to sports. You don't just win with one guy sometimes. Like, you have to build up a team. Like, that's my problem with this whole thing. Jared Goff last night silenced all of the haters. And I think that people, I thought he did it for the NFC Championship game in the NFC North. And then last night was kind of the solidifying aspect for me, where it's like, yep, no one can say anything about this guy anymore. Unless he goes out and loses 10 straight games, this man is your quarterback for the next few years. Let him go out there, take the blanket off, quit being just a crybaby loser about quarterbacks, and go ride with your quarterback and let this man go win you a Super Bowl. Like, just sitting there, just throwing pressure on this guy when he throws one interception is it's terrible. It's embarrassing for the fan base, in my opinion. And then seeing what he did last night, and then all these people want to congratulate him and tweet and post all these good things about him, but you're going to sit there and talk bad about him a week later and be like, oh, well, it's my job. Like, no, what are we doing here? Like, it's your job to talk about football. Break it down the right way. Well, he's a good quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I echo everything you just said. I mean, even this comment here, and I think it's a great comment. Tyler, also, Goff doesn't really have a major injury history. Availability is an underrated ability. He's absolutely correct. I mean, Goff doesn't – he does. He takes care of himself. He's smart. Like, he doesn't take unnecessary risk. And the thing I loved about Ben's script, or his play calling, especially getting Jared in these play action sets, but allowing him to kind of run outside the pocket a little bit, like getting him on the move. Like, the guy was throwing darts, like he's making a lot of money. Okay. But here's the thing. When you pay a franchise quarterback, you're paying him for a multitude of things, a lot of things, right? To be your franchise, to be your CEO, whatever, to be the first one in, last one out, your hardest worker, usually your best player. But for Goff, all those things are true. And that's why people were like, well, Lions are paying him all this money. He's not playing that well. You pay Goff for what happened yesterday. Like, not the perfect, and not to be perfect every game, but to take care of the football, get the ball to playmakers, run the offense. Like, guy that's what he does. That's what you're paying him for. Some guys get paid because they're like, well, Trevor Lawrence, I think they expected him to put the franchise on his back, and he looks awful. But some franchises give guys contracts like, hey, here's a lot of money. Hopefully your talent can just kind of take us out of this mess. That's not what the Lions did with Goff. They're like, we're going to pay you because we know you can run this offense efficiently, and we know we can win with you. And that's why, like, the famous thing, Dan, he's like, hey, Detroit, you're wanted in Detroit. Like, that's why, and like, to everything you said too, Jared Goff, I think in some cases, especially nationally, very underrated. I don't think he gets the credit he does deserve, because even with the contract, which in due time will look like a steal, and give it 5 years with guys getting paid 3-4 years, even you'll see these contracts fly up. I mean, Dak's at $60 million,
and he's going to get paid this year again, and
he hasn't sniffed not even close to the same playoff success as Goff with very good teams. So again, I thought Goff played very well. The run game, even though Montgomery had 40 yards, like, he still ran hard, and Jameer looked great. So they ran the ball effectively. Like, even without Frank Ragnow, man, remember that was a worry of ours. They didn't have Frank Ragnow on the road in Chicago, and that was a very good defense, but you saw what happened. This Seahawks secondary, like, couldn't force an incompletion, Boone. I mean, they did not.
Listen, the thing with Goff too, I'll kind of one up to what you just said there. It's you paying for games like yesterday. He has 14 to 15 of those games a season. And if you have a quarterback who, Let me get that right. Not perfect 18 for 18 games, but I'm saying performances that put you in the win column. And he's out there taking care of the rock. He's putting the ball in the right spots. He's executing. He's leading the team. He's doing what you need to do and what you need out of a starting quarterback in the NFL at an extremely high level. He does that 14 to 15 games out of a season. Like, yeah, if you want to take, and if people want to take a victory lap, I see already people in the chat. If you want to take victory laps and you want to say he's not a good quarterback in the NFL or if he's average because of the 2 or 3 or 4 tougher games that he has throughout a season, that's fine with me. That's on you. That means you're blindsided to the other 14 or 15 games and you choose to ignore those. Because right now, if we look at the first 4 games of the season and you put him up against the best quarterback in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes, they have almost identical numbers right now. And obviously one team's 4-0 and one's 3-1. But if you just go look at it, like Jared Goff still produces and you're sitting there at 3-1. So like he's above average quarterback in the NFL. If we're talking average, those are guys who are on 8 and 9 teams, 9 and 8 teams, and they're just sneaking into the playoffs or barely getting in. Like this is an above average quarterback. And guess what? He wins games. Like in the playoffs, like he did it in LA. I know he didn't really produce a lot, but they went to a Super Bowl, and then he did it last year in Detroit when it came down to it in crunch time. He made plays. Like it wasn't his reason he lost the NFC Championship game. He made the plays. So that's where for me, and by the way, I'm starting to think that Pennywise's account, that's just easy. I think Pennywise is easy. I think he's burner.
No,
I really truly think so. I've seen it for a couple weeks now. I think that's easy. I think so.
Well, I'll say this, like the guy, and again, like for the comment about Pennywise saying, like Booner, he's average, bro.
He's not. He's above average. He's not an average quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, average. I mean,
I'm trying to think of like average QBs. You know, I mean, there's a lot. I think you could go. I think Baker's actually a little above average. I wouldn't even go Baker
right now. Yeah,
I'm trying to think of like average quarterbacks in the league. Help me out, Klotzy. Can you?
Tua? Like a guy like Tua?
You're muted, but I know you mean it with you. So. Yeah, well, Andy Dalton.
Cousins, Andy Dalton, like you guy can come in and win a football game. Jared Goff's above
example. Like yeah, great example. Like Andy Dalton. Like, come on, you know. Like,
I would rather have Jared Goff on my team than Geno Smith 100 times out of 100 times. Personally,
no? I think. Wait, what'd you say? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You just said you're like no. I said I would rather have Jared Goff on my team 10 times out of 10 times over Geno Smith. Personally.
Yeah, I completely. I mean,
Jared Goff wins.
People tend to be prisoners of the moment, and that's what it is with Geno. Last 3 years, guy, and this is all due respect. Like I do respect Geno for the career he's had, and the last 3 years playing really well, giving an opportunity. Like it's great for him and getting paid and making a lot of money. But like, let's not forget the first 7 years of his career. Like, come on, let's be real here. All right, Jared Goff's been doing this since he got drafted number 1 overall. You know, and he had some late years in LA struggling, but you take his whole career, put it next to Geno, it's not even close. Like, I don't know where people get off saying Geno's better because he had more passing yards. Like, this is the problem with the stat watching stuff, man. Like, you know, that's what frustrates me personally. You know, I don't know how you can say Geno Smith's better than Jared Goff. That makes absolutely no sense. What does he do better? Better arm. I think they're about similar. I think they're about similar arms. You know, but Geno, a little more mobile, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that,
I do think there's an aspect of football games, especially with the quarterback position, where it's like one experience and like timely decisions, different things like that. And I think Jared Goff, that's something that he has going for him, especially with other quarterbacks and younger quarterbacks, is when you're going head to head for some teams, like putting the ball in the right spot. Obviously, even if it's a duck, like people, he throws a duck, but like one thing that everyone talks about, remember the Dan Orlowski thing that we did in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think it was accuracy was Jared Goff. Like he was the best in the NFL, or it was something like that. And like that, they're putting the ball in the right spot. And like, that's something that's very underrated with the guy like Jared Goff, and leadership and being able to know like, hey, a 2-minute drill, this, like we need to go out and do this in a 2-minute drill, do this and lead an offense, to where like Geno, like he's done it for a couple of years, but like they haven't made a playoff run. And it's not like they haven't had teams or weapons or defenses to do it. Like they've had everything to it. It's just, there's just that difference there. And like with Jared in Detroit here, when you have a quarterback that knows how to win and knows where to put the ball and knows situationally and knows how to do that, Like it does mean it means a lot. Like there is a big difference. Like I would say if you put Geno on this team, there are going to be games you lose because he might put a lot of points up on the board, but timely passes, timely plays, like just different things like that. Do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I mean, even this point, like Pennywise swap teams with Geno and Goff. What happens? I'll tell you what.
Probably lose.
Hold on. Lions fans are looking at the Seahawks going, man, I wish we had that quarterback. Like I don't think it would be, oh yeah, we got Geno, man, we got Goff. Good luck with Goff. Like, no, it would be the opposite. Like I'm sorry, I would never. There is no, in no way, shape, or form would I ever say yes to a 1-for-1 trade for Geno Smith. I don't know. Did we forget last year? And the dude played in 15 games and didn't even sniff Goff's numbers. I mean, this is the problem with it. I mean, what are we doing? Like,
I mean, just winning games.
I don't think it's a massive. I don't think Geno's like 25th in the league compared to Goff. I think it's close. Couple quarterback ranking spots, but most lists Goff's higher than him, and in my list, he's for sure higher than him.
Oh, so easily, yeah, 100%.
That's where I mean, if you think Geno's better, okay, I think you're completely wrong. But you can have that opinion.
If Geno's better, Seattle would have already gone on a playoff run and gone to an NFC Championship game over the last 2 years. That would have happened. They have a team. They have a good team. Maybe they need a couple. They needed a couple pieces, but they would have at least they didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I don't know. And they have weapons. I mean, they have great weapons. Great backfield, decent O-line, great receivers. Like they have everything they need.
I hate this conversation because it's just there are the Jared Goff haters were like until Jared Goff wins the Super Bowl, and those same people, honestly, like these people in the chat who are going at those same people, if you win a Super Bowl, they're going to find a way to tear down Jared Goff somehow, some way. Like it's a never ending conversation. And if Jared Goff, when he has his next game that he throws an interception and they lose and like it's going to happen at some point, it's the NFL, then those people are going to take a victory lap and they're going to, again, Jeff, they're going to ignore the 14, 15 games where Jared Goff plays a great game. They win, they go on a playoff for all of that. So I like Geno Smith too. I feel like it's like, taken away from Geno. Like I don't think Geno's a bad
not even
quarterback.
about that. It's just like, to me, it's just common sense. Like no disrespect, but like it, like even ETN, I think you guys are being slightly disrespectful to Geno here. Don't have to say he's better than Goff, but it's close. No, it isn't. Geno's offensive line isn't close to Detroit's, to be fair. See, that argument is not fair at all. Like to discredit, okay, well, his offensive line's better. So yeah, you can go around the league and bring up different quarterbacks and their offensive lines and use that excuse. Like even with Caleb Williams, for example. Like, yeah, the offensive line is god-awful, and it's awful. But at the end of the day, there has to be some accountability there at the end of the day. Like, I mean, it's just, are we going to bring up, like, other quarterbacks playing well without good offensive lines? Like, I just hate doing that. Well, he has a good offensive line. So it's like, no, well, okay, both quarterbacks, just look at the quarterbacks. I'm still taking Goff over Geno Smith. I'm sorry. I mean, people just seem to forget Geno's first 8 years. This isn't like 3 years, guys. 8 years. 8 years. You know, and last night I thought Geno played a great game. Great game. He did. But at the same time, like, I don't want to have that conversation. All right, you guys can keep Geno. I mean, that's fine. I don't see it. In what world? I don't see it. But anyway, I did want to get more into the game. Obviously, we spent some time here talking about the Geno Smith and Jared Goff stuff. And I thought Jared played well. You can't take anything away from him. I don't care what all these national analysts say. You just can't. The guy played well, did his job. I don't want him personally to throw 35, 40 times a game. Like, ask Geno to throw that many times. You see what happens. It's just most quarterbacks in the league, you lose if you throw that many times. Like, that's just how that works. So the yards, yeah, great. But you just can't have it happen. Even when Goff threw 55 times against the Bucs, like, yeah, he had 300 yards. I don't care. Can't have him throw that many times. Like, it's not all about just the passing yards. I thought Goff played very well. The offense, though, Boone, before, because we're going to get to our power rankings in about 11 minutes. Offense looked very sharp. Yes. I thought Ben did something yesterday, like I kind of mentioned earlier, that I've been waiting on. Just getting back to their identity. They did it in the first half against Arizona. Second half, they didn't score a point. In this game, from start to finish, that's a Super Bowl offense. Like that, and that is a Super Bowl offense. And it was great to see Yodi in there. Yodi played very well. And on top of that, Graham Glasgow played very well, playing center. You know, so it was great to see the offense look the way they did.
Yeah, I mean, I do think I've said it. So I'm going to say it a million times on the show today. I think that's the best offense in the NFL when they're playing that way. And all right, obvious because they went 18 for 18, but just when again, if you get 80% of that going forward, with Tim Patrick now joining the party, the way J-Mo's been through 4 weeks, the best running back duo, the offense, when you have all of that put together in one, that offense is unbelievable. Like, that is the best offense in the NFL. You'll win a Super Bowl like that. Whether your defense is 10th, 12th, 13th, you'll find a way to win a Super Bowl offensively with Ben Johnson like that. I do think, like, Jeff, I think over the last few weeks, I had brought up a couple times, like, where do the Detroit Lions rank offensively? And they've been outside the top 10 for a couple weeks now. Now, after this game, they are now officially a top 5 team in offensively again. They're 4th in yards per game, and they're 6th in points per game. So, like, depending on how you kind of want to say, do their offensive rankings, they are 4th and 6th, and they are back on top. And I don't see this offense slowing down a little bit at all. Like, I think it was just waiting to where they had this rust factor of trying to figure out a way to get J-Mo involved while also establishing the run game, while also keeping Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta involved and getting all this. I think Ben finally figured it out. You had a feeling, and I think the first possession, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but when we were live, our thing was, hey, run the ball, establish run. And then they go pass, run, pass, and they just were trying to pass right out of the gate, 3 and out. And then after that, you could tell a little bit, they were like, okay. And you know what? I wish we knew this. I hope Dan was like, hey, Ben, just run the ball, brother. Come on. Just run the rock. And I think they ended up doing it. And I think what he did is that they finally started to run the ball. You saw what Jameer did, David Montgomery, and that offensive line. And yeah, the defensive line was banged up. So you were able to take away from, you were able to take advantage of that. But they finally got in sync. Like, they were able to figure out kind of a little bit of a rhythm. I think who in the chat said it? Someone said it. Tyler Chauvet said, yeah, they were able to get in a rhythm. Play selection was balanced. Everything just felt very good about this offense. And that was all we were asking. And you could tell the first 2 weeks they were trying to figure it out. Week 3, they went back to the run, slowly figured it out in the first 2 quarters. And then now you get to week 4, you had the best of both worlds. You add them together and you get that. Like, I think the J-Mo thing, Jeff, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on this. I think it's not a thing to where you sit there and force the ball to J-Mo, but like Dan said in the post game yesterday, hey, J-Mo, just keep blocking and keep running your routes. Eventually, they're going to go into a cover 0, or they're going to do something to where you're going to get opened up. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. It's like, hey, let's move away from just forcing the ball to J-Mo. Let's just play our normal offense. Eventually, J-Mo's going to get open. And you saw exactly that yesterday. Like, that's exactly what happened. And I think Ben is starting to realize that a little bit. Like, okay, we don't need to force the ball to anyone. Let's just let this naturally come.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring in Klotz. Let's see, Klotz, you good?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're all good, baby.
All
hey,
right.
You're good.
All right.
Hey,
I
Klotz,
won't be the best, but you can hear me.
I want your opinion on that because I think you're a perfect guy to ask. The Geno Smith-Jared stuff. Where are you at, and kind of where they are in terms of closeness and ranking? And what do you think of both quarterbacks? Because people are arguing in the chat about it. It's a good conversation.
Geno Smith is better than what Russell Wilson was later on in his career for Seattle. Like, Geno Smith is an upgrade over Russ. But when you're talking about Jared Goff, this is a guy that's been able to step foot outside of his rookie year with Jeff Fisher, kind of his last year with McVay with the banged up hand. Jared Goff has won in the NFL. Geno Smith, when you look at him in New York, obviously not a great situation, but he was not good. He's in a great situation in Seattle. He's putting up numbers. He's putting them in winning situations. So give him props. But I think there's just, at the end of the day, Geno probably, at the eye test, he has better intangibles. But at the end of the day, the best quarterbacks in the NFL history are guys that didn't have that much intangibles. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, some of the guys we talked about earlier. Now you have guys like Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, Cam Newton, who are very, very good, but intangibly they had it all. But they couldn't refine it enough to win a Super Bowl. You look at Cam Newton, like, he was so talented, but when the ball got fumbled in the Super Bowl, he looked at it. And that's just something that breaks down players like that, where it kind of takes away from him. It's not like he's not a smart individual or anything like that, but it comes down to awareness in the game. And Jared Goff doesn't have the athleticism of Geno Smith, but he's more aware, and he's just able to consistently make plays and accurate throws. So Geno's probably like a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, but Jared Goff's a top 10.
Yeah, I well said. I agree with everything you said there. And to kind of go back to what we were talking about, the offense just in general, I will say this, Tim Patrick, fellas, he's solid, very solid.
Yes, big piece.
More every week, he's being trusted more and more. You see the value he brings, bringing that true X, his blocking ability. downfield threat a little bit. Downfield threat. Even at his, he's not super old, but he's, about, what is he, 29, 30 years old. He looked damn good, fellas. I will say, even for them bringing him in, I think he is a perfect piece to what they need. A guy that has no ego, someone that, hey, if I'm going to be relied on today, cool. If not, great. I'm still going to block. And he did exactly that. Like, he did his job and then some. So a lot of credit to Tim Patrick for who he is and how much he's meant to this team now through the last couple of weeks, playing more and more snaps.
It feels like, too, like last week he had like almost 30 snaps. Like, they want him on the field to open things up. And then this week it was like, all right, we have to start like going at him twice for 50 yards. All right, he's not just a decoy anymore. Now we can start incorporating him into the offense. And it's taken away from Khalif, but being able to have that guy outside and be able to move JMO around and let JMO just work in the right spots. Like, I think that Tim Patrick, he's a vet. Like, he understands his role. He's not out there being like, hey, I need to get mine. He understands his role. He's at the point of his career where he's like, I've gone through these 2 brutal injuries. I'll do anything to contribute, and I want to win a Super Bowl. Like, that's where I think Tim Patrick's at. And for him to come in and do what he's done, all respect to him at the end of the day. And I think he's going to get better and better in this offense. Like, he's going to actually turn into, like, this is a good thing, guys. He's going to turn into the Josh Reynolds role, where he's going to have everything Josh Reynolds did. And then take away how we're all like, well, the conversation was always JMO takes over Josh Reynolds' role. No, he doesn't have to. He has his own role. He's Jameson Williams. We don't need him to take over Josh Reynolds' role. Let Tim Patrick do that, and now we have a new role on this offense, which that makes your offense that much better. You have a new playmaker and a new weapon on your offense with JMO. You don't even have to worry about filling that Josh Reynolds role because Tim Patrick has done it. And I'm not talking about yardage-wise. I'm talking about like what his value is to the team. And now JMO can just be JMO, and you have your own everything on his own with JMO. Like, I think that's a positive because last year you had Josh Reynolds. You just added a 1,000-yard wide receiver in Jameson Williams, and you just replaced Josh Reynolds with Tim Patrick. Like, that is massive. And we got Tim Patrick from Denver, where Josh Reynolds is, and he's better.
Yeah, kind of eerie. But I mean, if you think about it, Tim Patrick, I think, Boone, I know you agree, and Jeff, I'm sure you will if you haven't already. By the end of the year, playoff time, to your point, Boone, Tim Patrick will be the clear wide receiver 3 because he's what this team needs on the outside. He's 6'4". He's got the catch radius of a small garage, and he's able to block, and he runs good routes, and he catches damn near everything that's in his vicinity. So everything that Josh Reynolds went to Denver with, to your point, Boone, Tim Patrick is bringing to Detroit from Denver, and he has, like, I know 2 major injuries, but he was never a wide receiver 1 in Denver. He was situationally a wide receiver 2, but for being a vet coming off 2 major injuries, he has a lot of tread left on his tires, and you can see it because he doesn't look hampered that much. He looks fully healthy, does not look like those injuries are coming back to bite him. So this is going to be one of the most underrated moves that Brad Holmes has made for this team heading into the season because Tim Patrick, like we said, you have him on the outside against a smaller DB. Towards the end of the season, there are going to be jump balls in the red zone thrown to Tim Patrick. If Jared Goff doesn't have that safety at the end of the game, and I'm not blaming Jared Goff for that, but if the protection holds up for 2 more seconds, Tim Patrick is running across against man coverage wide open to end that game. You think about that. It's like to seal the game. They wanted to go to Tim Patrick. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have Jameson Williams. You have Sam Laporta. Let's go to Tim Patrick. And you know why? Because, if you throw the ball in his direction, he's going to make the play. And that's what Josh Reynolds was, except in the NFC Championship game. So Tim Patrick can be Josh Reynolds and just show up in the NFC Championship game. You get 3 balls thrown your way, catch him for 50 yards. That's what they need out of him. And that's what he can do that. And I think he will do that. There's no reason that Tim Patrick is just going to fall apart and crumble compared to what he's been showing at the beginning of the season.
Hey, diggity dog, catch radius of a small garage. It's underrated commentary. I mean, that's a bar.
Hey, shout out Diggity Dog. Love the name.
No, that's a bar, Lucas. I agree with everything you said. I mean, he's cheaper. And sprinkle on top of that. I mean, they signed him for what? I mean, he was on the practice squad and he got elevated because they were working him in. But like, I think he's a very I wouldn't even call him a Josh Reynolds replacement, but like he can fill that JMO role of last year. That's what I'll use. Like that 300 yards, dude can do that. I mean, and then Khalif, when you need him, will be there. But he's a great piece, very underrated piece. Let's get to our NFL power rankings. I'll go first, so I'll put mine on.
All right.
Yeah, let me talk about what my top 10 teams are. So here, let me put this up for you. All right, let's get to mine. Listen here, fellas. Okay, Let me just talk to the
What?
people. Let me just talk.
Hold the phone, Hefe.
Oh, let me talk to
Go
people.
ahead, go ahead.
All right. So I got the Washington Commanders at 10. And I tried to find every reason to not put them here, but I just couldn't. They're playing well. Their offense is highly efficient, and Jaden Daniels is playing very, very well. He's a very good quarterback. And Cliff Kingsbury, I got to give a lot of credit to him. Very, very good OC. Like that, and this is why, like, it's not just with Goff. Like, everyone benefits from having a great OC. It's just the facts. Like, you have Jane Daniels, very good. Cliff Kingsbury, right? You have Josh Allen. You have Joe Brady. Patrick Mahomes, as great as he's Andy Reid. Like, everyone's going to benefit from having a great play caller. So, Jaden Daniels with that offense, with how they're playing right now, well coached, they look very good. I have them at 10. At number 9, I have the San Francisco 49ers. I'm putting them here. The win over the Patriots, it didn't do much for me. I'm going to be honest, didn't do much for me. But Juwan Jennings, he's a dude.
Come on now.
We'll say, guy just makes plays. And again, they have some injuries that they're kind of battling through, but their defense is very good. I don't know. Without McCaffrey, I think it hurts them, even though they're running the ball well. You could just tell like what he means and how defense's game plan for them. A little different now without Christian McCaffrey. Now, number 8, I have the Seattle Seahawks. And, the Seattle Seahawks, to me, very good team. They're a good team, even though they kind of face trash can opponents. I mean, that's not me, just taking a shot. That's the actual fact. I mean, look at their schedule for the first 3 games. And then they faced the Lions, and they of course, weren't completely healthy, so they lost, but they're still a top, 8 team in the NFL. They're still very good. I'm still going to give them credit for that. At number 7, the Houston Texans. Same kind of point about the 49ers. Like, a win over the Jags ain't doing much for me, I'm going to be honest. And they lost to the Vikings, and they had to come back against the Jags. They were down pretty much all of that game. So they're a good team, but they didn't move the needle too much. They're about where they were and have been in my power rankings. I think they'll be good as the season goes on, but right now, just can't justify them higher than 7. Now, number 6, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Started 0-2, won 2 straight. Derrick Henry's running the hell out of the football. He's in a rhythm. He's first in the NFL in yards, rushing yards. That dude is a problem. And the fact that anyone in their right mind thought that he would possibly slow down is blasphemy. Derrick Henry's running all over the place. Lamar Jackson doing what he does. Their defense is very good. Like the Ravens, I didn't put them higher than the Bills, and I'll get to that in a second because, again, we're prisoners of the moment, and we live by one game. But the Ravens are very good. No denying that. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can't see them because I'm kind of in the way, so let me just put this on screen for – oh, there you go. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5. Great win over the Eagles. Great win over the Eagles. Huge win. And, you had Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady commentating, Baker basically calling out, a little bit Tom Brady, not too much, but also saying, hey, guys, they just didn't have a lot of fun when I got here. They didn't have a lot of fun. And then you have Tom Brady going, well, winning Super Bowls is pretty fun, which is kind of a bar, actually. But they looked very good over the Eagles, took care of them, and they're a very good team. So I had to give them credit. Buffalo Bills, I put them at 4. And again, for the crowd, I see it in the chat. Well, why not the Ravens higher than the Bills? I'm not ready to do that yet. It's trending that way. We'll see. And you guys know me, been the biggest Bills critic, but I think given how the Bills have looked so far this season, you can't take away what they've done. One loss against a team that just punched them in the mouth outright. I mean, just absolutely punched them in the mouth. I'm not going to overreact too much. I still think they're very good. And Josh Allen, the dude was getting thrown around. They couldn't protect him a lot in that game. So it's a loss, but it's not enough for me just to bump them down. What we have them usually 3 or 4, like a bunch of spots. If they drop next week's game, then we're trending in that direction where the Bills are sliding down my power rankings. But at this point, even one loss, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to put the Ravens over them. They were 0-2. Now they're 2-2. So that I'm going to hold on that take yet. I'm not going to just put the Ravens above the Bills. Number 3, I have the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, to me, have earned this spot. Big win over the Seahawks. They're trending upwards. I just think there are some things the Lions, of course, have to work on, like a lot of teams in the NFL. But the Lions, they just have to put it all together. Like the defense has to show up like they have against the Cardinals, and the offense has to show up like they did against the Seahawks. You got to put this whole thing together. They just haven't been doing that. It's been the offense shows up and the defense shows up. And these teams I have above them have been pretty much figuring out a way to win. The Vikings, one of those teams. The Vikings, they've been putting it all together. Say what you want about Sam Darnold. They're one of the best coaching staffs in the league right now with Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores. What they're doing over there is insanely impressive. They're getting every ounce of production out of this team. And it's honestly, I thought the defense would be worse. I thought the offense would look as good. Boy, I was wrong. They look great on both sides of the ball, and they look very, very dangerous. And the Vikings are still undefeated, and they take on the Jets. So we'll see what happens there. They're going to lose at some point, but right now being undefeated, looking how they look, big wins against the Packers with Jordan Love back. They beat the Texans, not just beat, decimated the Texans. They earned a spot as number 2 in my power rankings. And at number 1, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I know people would say, well, why the Chiefs? They don't look as good. We have to be consistent. When the Lions figure out ways to win, we credit them. The Chiefs are still finding ways to win. They just do. Their defense is very good. They had some injuries that happened. Kareem Hunt, by the way, looked very good. And they just brought him off the street, essentially free agent at 419 Toledo's own. He looked very good. And I think this Chiefs offense will figure it out at some point, guys. Last year, we know their record. We know what happened. I'm not doing this because I think they'll win the Super Bowl. I'm doing this because I still think you put any team up against the Chiefs, I'm taking the Chiefs. It's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and that defense with Spags. I can't dethrone them. I can't rank them any lower than 1. So that's my top 10. And I'm standing on business. I like that top 10.
You know what you're not standing on business with, Hefe? Where are those dirty birds? Where are those Atlanta Falcons? They squeak out a win.
Yeah, actually, how are you not putting them in there? That's actually when I left them out, in my mind, I was like, that's been my narrative is I don't think the Falcons are a top 10 team. I was like, I know Jeff will have them in there. I know Klotzy potentially could. I was like, I'm staying away from it because I had the Saints in, and I think you might have had the Falcons last week.
I will tell you.
Wait. Hold on. Before you tell me, I have receipts. Hold on.
Okay. We want me to wait?
I just want to see if you had them. I want to see.
They were in the top 10.
I had them last week, Boone. I had.
Oh, then you can't. No, you can't have them at 10 last week. They win, and then you take them out. That's not how the world works, Jeff Iafrate.
Did you listen to what I talked about with the Commanders? He just doesn't listen, doesn't he? I love him, but this is what I was saying about the Commanders. But let me re-explain. The Commanders look too good not to put them in the top 10. Like last week, I'm not putting them there. Now, this week, even with a win, like I would put the Falcons at 11. Like they're right there.
So who's better, the Falcons or Commanders?
The Commanders right now because they look great. They look very great. They look great. I mean, I'm going to assume you would agree with that.
I just think it's crazy. You had a 1 and 2 team at 10, and you're like, they're 10, and then they win, and they beat a team that was.
The Commanders continue to win, my guy. That's what happened.
My God, this guy's getting, we're just asking.
I explained to you the reason. The Commanders continue to look great. I cannot deny them in my top 10. I denied them last week. I got to give them the edge. I just can't. The only way the Falcons make this list if they had a pretty decisive win, I would be like even 2-2. I'll put them there. The Commanders are 3-1, man. You know, like I can't. You're mad I didn't have them in, and then if I did have them
I was mad last week because you had them in at 1 and 2, and then you're like, well, the Commanders are 3-1, but they're like, I don't know. The argument just really throws me off.
I understand.
Okay.
Klotz, are you with me? Are you with me on this, Klotz?
I know. I get what he's. If he would have had him at like 7, 8, I'd have been like, all right, what are we doing here? The fact he had him at 10, that's why I'm not.
Yeah, like I said, they're probably at 11. I'd put them right outside.
All right,
the Commanders continuing to look good. I got to give them credit. You know what I mean? Like I have to. They haven't made my top 10 list at all. I know they didn't make your guys' top 10 list, so we'll see where the Commanders are at.
Well, yeah, the Commanders.
Oh yeah, are they going to make your top 10?
You can't talk to me about the Commanders, buddy.
You never had them in your top 10.
I have talked about the Commanders for the last 4 months.
Did you have them in your top 10 last week?
Because they weren't top 10 last week.
Oh,
but I didn't take a team that won out of my top 10 to replace them. I have my top 10. If a team loses, guess what? And they're at the back end, gone.
Yes. Yep. So we agree.
I didn't have a team at 9 or 10, and I didn't have a team at 9 or 10, and they got a big win. And I just said, I'm sorry, the Commanders though. I would have kept them in. I would have moved them up. They move up.
The Commanders are. I swear, if they're in your list, I'm going to blow a gasket if the Commanders are on your list.
Yeah, but I took them out for a team that lost this weekend.
But dude, the Commanders continue to win, so now we're giving them credit. Like we didn't have. If you had the Commanders in your top 10, I would have been like, you know what? You didn't even have them in your top 10 last week.
You can't talk to me about the command. I've been the biggest Commanders fan for the last 6 months.
Jaden Daniels.
One of my bold takes on the show in the offseason was the Commanders will win the NFC East and make the playoffs. And you guys go, oh,
it's
no.
not about your team.
You said second.
I said they make the playoffs. Wild card. All right, maybe not win the NFC East. As we talked, as I talked it through.
He just wants to argue, don't he? He just
No,
wants to argue. I had the Falcons there because
maybe I do my list a little differently. I look at how teams are playing week to week, and I go, hey, if you lose, I'm going to drop you down a bit. If you win, I'm going to push you up. You did not do that. You saw a win. You saw a win, and you said bye-bye.
Okay, let me ask you. Let me be the voice of reason here, because this is when I'm looking at Jeff's list. Yes, the Falcons were on there at 10. Commanders, he was probably like, yeah, not yet, but they're probably like top 15. When you have an impressive win versus like like you won, but it was off a young Hoku miracle to bail you out yet again. That's where like who had the more impressive win. Well, don't take the headset off now, Boone.
It's just my argument last week with Jeff with the 1-2 Falcons was they got lucky in that win versus the Eagles, and then this week. The reason I don't have them in my top 10 now is because they got lucky again and they had
I don't believe in that. That's bullshit.
So then why didn't you keep them in there then if you don't believe in it? Why didn't you keep them in there if you don't believe in it?
Because the Commanders had the more dominating win, and I think that's fair.
That's all it is. I don't know what you're not understanding. Like the Falcons are right outside the top 10. The Commanders are continuing to look they look better than the Falcons, so they got the edge them out.
We got to start asterisking at the bottom, like the honorable mentions, like the 11 and 12.
Yeah. No, it's just it's crazy. All right, it's no big deal. Let's go.
No, it is. It is a big deal. Apparently, I didn't think it would be, but you know what, Lucas, get to your list.
Shout out to my offensive rookie of the year, Jaden Daniels, and my Washington Commanders, the wild card team. Shout out.
That never made your top 10 this year.
That's a lie. You don't know if they're on my top 10 this year.
Well, not the last couple of weeks. Let's get to Klotz.
That's because they weren't there yet.
I agree.
We'll continue the Commanders, Trey, because I agree with Jeff. They're a top 10 team. There's a couple of teams I was thinking about. I think the Seahawks, they're not on this list. I was debating between the Seahawks and the Commanders because last week I believe I had the Seahawks at 8. So it's like, how do I want to do this? But I think right now, the way that Jaden Daniels is playing, the way that the Seahawks defense looked when they finally played a legitimate offense, I think the Commanders win that game because Dan Quinn, he has those boys going. Cliff Kingsbury's calling a hell of an offense, so I really like him. Brian Robinson, top 10 running back so far this year. And then at 9, Philadelphia Eagles. I had him at, I had him at 6 last week. I mean, I still think they're a good team. No Devontae Smith, no A.J. Brown, so I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. But they got absolutely curb stomped at Tampa. Tampa's a very good team, but I thought Philly would show up a little bit better. At 8, the Baltimore Ravens, they were outside my top 10 list, and then they did. They went in, they smacked the Bills right in the mouth. But we still see them struggle early on in the season. I think you have to take away with that because if Derrick Henry doesn't have a big game, I think this offense can be very one-dimensional and easy to stop, but I don't think that's going to be very often. So the Baltimore Ravens, I think, will continue to rise. But right now, I'm not going to just be like, oh, Baltimore Ravens, not on my top 10 list. Oh, Baltimore Ravens, top 5 because they beat the Buffalo Bills, who just simply didn't show up. I'm going to kind of pump the brakes a little bit, but they're still a very good team. The Niners, I understand why people are like, yeah, we're not going to buy it yet, but I just think the Niners are still a damn good football team, kind of the same tier as the Baltimore Ravens right now. They're both 2-2. When you look at the San Francisco 49ers team, they lost by 1 touchdown and then 1 point to the LA Rams. No Christian McCaffrey, I get that, but this San Francisco 49ers team on paper is much better than a lot of these teams on the top 10 list, and I think it's only a matter of time until they get it going. Good win against the New England Patriots at home. I think that's what they need to kind of get the ball rolling. They're going against the Arizona Cardinal next week. I think they'll pick up a W there, and they're going to just keep climbing. The Kansas City Chiefs, I understand they're undefeated. I understand they just keep finding a way to win, but they don't have Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, in my opinion, this season was off to like a top 3 wide receiver start, especially with Tyreek Hill not having Tua anymore. He was the lifeline for Patrick Mahomes, and I can understand what you say. It's like, oh, what they do last year when they had no wide receivers and they had the defense. Yeah, but Travis Kelce was playing a little bit better. They had Isaiah Pacheco, and they have won all of their games by 1 possession. Every team that you see in the NFL that wins by only strictly 1 possession games for most of the time. And I'm not saying they're the Minnesota Vikings from a couple of seasons ago, but what do you hear? Frauds. I cannot, to my life, like if Minnesota Vikings, Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, Buffalo Bills, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now face off with the Kansas City Chiefs, they're beating them. And I have respect for Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Spags. I think they're still going to be in the playoffs. Obviously, they're still going to win the AFC West, Super Bowl contenders. But with no Rashee Rice, I think that hurts them, especially when you look at just how they're winning games. It's just ugly. They're finding a way to win. But this is one of those where it's just record doesn't show it all to me. So I'm going to have the Chiefs at 6 for now because they're just looking ugly. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Iafrate, I think you had them at 5 as well. I think some people took them off their top 10 list for the loss at home against Denver. Like, I understand that's a bad loss, but we can't act like this team didn't beat the Detroit Lions. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, this is a very good team, offensively, defensively, extremely balanced. Bucky Irving's emerging more as a true running back there in between the tackles. They got a nice little running back duo going on there behind a solid offensive line. Baker Mayfield playing the best ball of his life, and they obviously just curbed down to the Philadelphia Eagles to send a message that, hey, I know we lost to the Denver Broncos, but we are still the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers for me at 5. Number 4, Buffalo Bills. I had them at 2 last week. That was a tough loss against the Ravens, but they just simply didn't show up. I think this team is going to be just fine defensively. They're going to be just fine offensively. The worst performance of the year. This is kind of like the Booner. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, being the Josh Allen fan that you are. Josh Allen has a bad game. Everyone in the media goes, this is why Josh Allen cannot beat Patrick Mahomes. This is why he's not Joe Burrow. Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL so far this year. They just had a bad week. That's going to happen. Every NFL team is going to have that. So I'm not going to transcend the Buffalo Bills all the way down my top 10 list. Hold them accountable. Yeah, number 4 instead of number 2. Still a very good team. They lost to another very good team, the Baltimore Ravens. The Houston Texans. Tough game against Jeff's Jags, who happen to be 0-4 at this point. But they were without Joe Mixon. They were without Tank Dell. They were without Jimmy Ward. And C.J. Stroud looked very good, and I think that's what he needed after following that Minnesota Vikings game to get the ball going again. I think Houston, they didn't play their best game, but Jacksonville was playing their ass off. A divisional game. Those games are never easy. So I'm going to give Houston the benefit of the doubt that it's just, hey, Jacksonville's playing up, and they're going to keep things rolling. I still think D'Amico Ryans, that offense, that defense, extremely talented. The chemistry is extremely high. I'm not worried about Houston. I've had them inside my top 5 pretty much all year, and I'm going to keep them there. I don't think much has changed with them. And this is where, boys, I had to make a tough decision. I know I'm the CPO of the Booner path, but as of right now, I cannot put the Detroit Lions in front of the Minnesota Vikings. I can't. By the end of the season, we will be having a different discussion, absolutely. But heading into the bye week for the Detroit Lions, I love what I'm seeing. 3-1. I would prefer to be 4-0, but 3-1 is fine. It's perfect. I think they're looking like a top 5 offense after last night. Defense a little bit worried, but you're going to get Brian Branch. All those missed tackles that came in that second half, those will be neutralized. If you look at those Minnesota Vikings, he's not the best. There's not a better quarterback right now, efficiency-wise, than Sam Darnold. Justin Jefferson looks like Justin Jefferson. Aaron Jones looked like he did in Green Bay, and Brian Flores is the best defensive coordinator in the NFL right now. You can hear outside of Steve Spagnuolo. I'll pump the brakes there. Got to give credit to him. But this year, strictly, what Brian Flores is doing with that Minnesota Vikings defense is insane. They don't have a star anywhere. They have a couple solid guys: Alex Van Ginkel, Jonathan Greenard, Cam Bynum, not Andrew Bynum, Josh Metellus. They have some solid guys there, but they don't have an Aiden Hutchinson. They don't have a Brian Branch. I wouldn't even say they have an Alex Anzalone. So what's going on in Minnesota right now is remarkable. Jordan Addison came back off injury, had a very solid week. I love what's going on in Minnesota right now for the Vikings fans. Obviously, as a Detroit Lions fan, I don't, but they're the number 1 team in the NFL right now. It's close, but I got to give credit to the Vikings.
Ooh, hold on.
I'm interested.
You know what, Klotz? You know what? Well, so far at least we have similar teams. It's just the Chiefs at 6. Like, what are we doing?
Can I say it feels
ahead.
like, and I'm just throwing it out there. This isn't a bad thing. I put it in our private chat over here. I'm like, did Klotz just hit shuffle on his list? Like, how are the Chiefs at 6?
Boys,
they're 4-0. Like, I get maybe if you move them out of, you had them at number 1 and they beat the Chargers, and there's no way that you move a team, whether you lose a wide receiver or not. We've seen the Chiefs over the last 4 years lose players and still just win games. Like, it's one of those things to where if any team in the NFL or any team in any sport loses a guy, there is one team in every sport who has a little bit of grace to be like, they're still a top 5 team. You don't move the Kansas City Chiefs outside the top 5. Like, that is one of the most, I love you, Klotz. That's one of the more
All right, so that's
I'm
fine. Okay, now I'm going to
speechless.
respond. Let me respond, Boone. So I'm going to pull the list up one more time.
All right.
With no Rashee Rice, with no Isaiah Pacheco, with Travis Kelce playing the way he is, do you think they beat the Minnesota Vikings?
They're going
Well,
to be in the game.
We
man.
just watched
They're going to be in the game. They're going to be in the game.
the Texans are without guys. Like, you're going to discredit them for that? I mean, Joe Mixon's
No,
out.
that's why I'm going to keep them in the same. They won.
But 1-6
They won. That's
is
why they still win.
ridiculous.
The Chiefs won.
The Chiefs won, but they didn't lose their wide receiver one for the rest of the season. Isaiah Pacheco is still out. When you look, they're winning by one possession games, even when they have those guys. I even said the Chiefs will go higher up the board right now. But the way that they are playing, they're squeaking by, and that's a team that we expected to dominate the regular season. They're getting all these offensive pieces. They're not there now. So they're a defensive team. They don't have Tre'Davious Ward anymore. Isaiah Pacheco's out. Their offensive line is not looking how it did last year either. They are not the same team. They're still a very good team, but they are not the same team they are last year at this moment. You can't tell me they have the firepower to keep up with those other teams.
They're not a top 2 team. Like, they're not. I'm like, my list you're going to see. I don't have them as one of the best in the NFL, but like, they're not number 6. Like, they will go up against anyone in the NFL. They could beat any team in the NFL.
Absolutely. But if
they're one of the best teams in the NFL, even without it. Yes, next week they could go beat the Vikings. And who do they play?
They absolutely could. But do I think that happens? No, I don't. I don't think they beat the Houston Texans. I don't think they beat the Detroit Lions. I don't think they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe when they get healthier, yes. But if we're going to hold all these teams accountable for the San Francisco 49ers for all the injuries that they have, the Kansas City Chiefs had lost their wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 2, their running back. Guy, like key little pieces on defense. No Chris Jones or
I mean,
they have lost guys, and I understand that they're winning games. But the second they go 4-1, people are like, the Chiefs. What's going on with the Chiefs?
You have the Chiefs at 6 and the 49ers at 7. 49ers lose guys. They're 2-2. The Chiefs still are finding a way to win, though. Like, if the 49ers are finding a way, but like, if the 49ers were 4-0 and they found a way to win those games, and you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, they're out without everyone, but they're still finding a way to win. Like, you're going to be like, yeah, they're still top 4. Like, you're not going to put them down you're not going to drop them 6 spots from your number 1 team to just because of Rashee Rice going out. They still won. Like,
it's
that's
not just because Rashee Rice I think is going to be a domino effect of a struggle bus for the Chiefs a little bit. I think the Chiefs are going to have a little tough stretch.
They've had those injuries for the last 5 years. They lost Tyreek Hill in the offseason, and everyone's like, they're never going to be good again. And they go and win a Super Bowl.
So what do? Defensively, they lose Tre'Davious Ward. I think that's going to have an effect at some point. They're losing Isaiah Pacheco. Travis Kelce has been there. Travis Kelce is not even a question. He's off to the worst start of the year. He has to pick it up now. They have to rely on Travis House or Patrick Mahomes. They have to rely on a rookie wide receiver to be the wide receiver 1. The San Francisco 49ers just got Deebo Samuel back. The San Francisco 49ers just got George Kittle back. Juwan Jennings looked like a fucking superstar that I've been saying he's been, and he's looking very damn good. Brock Purdy playing excellent. Patrick Mahomes is not playing like Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that's his fault, granted, but he has not been doing the production that he wants. I think this Chiefs team is still going to make the run in the AFC playoffs. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But right now, heading into week 5, they are majorly banged up, and that has to affect somehow.
Your list, I'll say this, last thing I'll say, your list week by week confuse the what out of me. Like, the Colts are, but you're like, the Colts are on their way up. They're going to be good in the future. They're in my top 10. But the Chiefs right now, they're bad. They're going to be good in the future, but they're going to drop. Like, both are opposite sides. Like, let's be consistent here.
I tried to tame that stuff down, and I try to be consistent. I see big injuries happen. We drop teams down. You got to do that for the Chiefs too.
All right. Yeah. Trust me. I dropped them down, but they're not the 6th best team in the NFL.
I understand that you might drop them down, but we can look at it differently in the fact that offensively, the Chiefs are not the Chiefs. Defensively, they're good, but they're still not what the Chiefs have been defensively.
They're not worse than the Bucs, even with injuries.
I think if the Chiefs and Buccaneers were to play right now, this weekend, the Buccaneers, they might be favored. That's fine. I'm taking the Buccaneers to win that game. I am.
Okay.
I think. Name me the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver 2 right now.
I'm not sitting here naming names, but all I'm saying is the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
They have a chance in any given day.
Yes. So they're a top 5 team no matter what when they have those 3 guys. That has been – listen, I had a stretch of my life a year or 2 ago where I tried to go away from the Kansas City Chiefs and do what you're doing, Klotzy. I got humbled really quick. I got humbled so fast, and I had to go on air and be like, I think I was with Adam at the time. That's on me. I can't do that again. and I got humbled. This feels like one of those like.
So you're telling me the
1
Chiefs
to
right
6
now
after a win and being 4-0 is whoa.
So do you have, and we'll get to it later, but you're telling me right now the Chiefs are just as good as they looked at the beginning of the season compared to now? No. They are definitely worse than what we all expected them to be.
Yeah, they're not the number one
That
team
doesn't
in
mean
football
they
anymore.
can't win a Super Bowl because they have Patrick Mahomes, because they have Andy Reid, because they have Steve Spagnuolo. Absolutely, they can win any game that they're in. But so can the other ones in the top 5 of this fucking list. Like that's
Jeff,
just,
you have to be
really
on my side here, right? Are you gonna?
No, I'm not gonna. I'm letting you.
I mean,
guys.
the Chiefs as bad as you think they are, the 6th best team. They're 5.5.
I mean, I have the Chiefs number 1. So clearly, me and Klotz disagree.
Oh, then you go ahead. I mean, let's hear your side of this. I'll sit back.
No, I don't need to add much more. I want to get to your list because we haven't, but I want to show off your list because I agree with pretty much everything you said. I have the Chiefs 1. I don't know where you have the Chiefs, but I still give teams. It depends on like how it looks, but I get that. I tend to lean on more if the team's winning, they're winning. You have to look at the context I get, but the Chiefs still have a great defense. Like they're going to hold teams to, under 20 points. Mahomes is Mahomes. He can get you 20.
Andy Reid's going to make sure.
Yeah. Even if they have Juju Smith-Schuster and, Travis Kelce, Justin Watson, he's probably one of the only quarterbacks I think I would give him that, like the benefit of the doubt, if that makes sense. And they signed Kareem. Kareem could run it. They don't miss Pacheco.
The way that, dude, you can't say that.
Pacheco's good, but no.
But they're going to find a way to offset and figure it out.
I agree. They'll have a good chance at winning every game that they're even with these injuries. But my point is, like, consistently, if you take the roster they have right now, heading into Monday Night Football against New Orleans Saints, against the rest of the top 5 teams, I don't think they win those games this weekend. If they win,
they're 5.5 point favorites versus Saints, dude.
I would hope so. It's a primetime game going up against Derek Carr and Dennis Allen.
They're not going to win those games.
They're playing.
Sorry, Xavier Worthy.
Xavier Worthy. Oh my God.
My point is, Booner, what I said is I think they have a tough 2 to 3 stretch of games going on. They have the Saints and they have the 49ers and the Raiders. The Raiders beat them last year with a very similar situation. Antonio Pierce, those Raiders teams, Gardner Minshew, they give the Chiefs some struggles sometimes. So I think they'll beat the Saints on prime time. But I think if like the San Francisco 49ers continue to slowly get healthier, I think the 49ers beat the Chiefs. And I think the Raiders, they might not beat the Chiefs, but they're going to give them a struggle. And I think when you look at that and you factor in the other 2 teams, Chiefs right now, they beat Chargers team without Derwin James, without Joey Bosa, and the refs, again, helping bail them out. Like that's not
the argument you should have went with. The Raiders over the Chiefs, like.
You want to go back and look at the last couple of years, it's not as big.
Yeah, but the Raiders aren't that great. They're about to lose their best player,
and they won this weekend.
And the Chiefs are going to beat the Raiders.
I
next 3 games.
I don't.
Next 3 games, I think they go at the very worst 2-1. They're not going 1-2. Like they will be above 500 in the next 3 games. I think they beat. Either they beat the Raiders and Saints and lose to the 49ers, or I think they go 3-0 and beat them all. Like I don't think they go 1-2. That's where I'm at with it. So I mean, I get it. I don't hate they don't have the Chiefs one. I just disagree that they're pretty low to me. But it's whatever.
A little lower. It kind of goes just back to the argument that you had with the Commanders and Falcons. Like the Chiefs won, but that was not a good win. Like that's like the Chiefs. Like I guarantee they are not that confident right now. Like if you keep scraping by 1 possession games, this eventually catches up to you, no matter what team you are.
Yeah,
4-0 and 2-2 is a little different, but teach his own.
And, well, even like I get your point. Like the Steelers going undefeated, what were they like 11-0 at one point years ago, and it was like, oh, that team's a fraud. Like when you have that defense, you have that defense, Mahomes and Andy Reid. I lean the other way, but let's get to Boone. I want to see what you got, Boone. Let's see what you got here. All right, you're calling out my list. You clearly, you know what? Let's get to Boone.
I didn't really call your list out. I just wish you had.
Right,
I just wanted you to stay consistent with the Falcons. That's all. It had nothing else to do with anything else. All right, my list. This is probably the best list, the right list. So if we're breaking down the list, who's the most accurate? Washington Commanders, number 10. You guys already talked about the Commanders. I've been big on Jaden Daniels all offseason. I think he does a great job. Dan Quinn's a good football coach, guys. I know he's had these ups and downs. He's a good football coach. And what they have going on there in Washington is unbelievable. Like, I love this. I love watching them. They're exciting to watch. Number 9, the Seattle Seahawks. I know with the loss, I had them higher last week. So I just dropped them down a couple spots, losing to the Detroit Lions, the team that I have pretty high up there right now. Number 8, the 49ers. I think with the win, they're starting to get back a little bit more. You get a sense that they're starting to figure things out a little bit more as they keep winning and start looking better. For me, I'll move them up the list as that goes. But right now, they're still sitting there in like 6 to 10 range for me. Number 7, the Ravens. Move them up from 10 to 7 from this week. I think the win that they had there, the Bills, that was a statement a little bit. Like defensively, that was a statement. They looked back offensively as well. They looked back to the Ravens from last year. And I know the Bills, and people are like, why do you have the Bills over the Ravens? Listen, the Bills still looked really good. They struggled on Sunday, but I do think like the Ravens and Bills, like if they play that game 10 times, they probably go 5-5. Like that goes both ways either way. I know it was a 20-point win, but like the Bills were just about to take or get a chance to get back in the game, and then the defense stepped up for the Ravens and they won the football game. And they took not Jared Goff. They took Josh Allen out in the fourth quarter. Jeff, you know about that. You know how that feels. That was brutal. We had a big parlay on that one. Number 6, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Klotz, you talked about the Bucs. They just keep finding ways to win games, and they look good. They look legit good. It was my mistake. I would take responsibility for it. I had them. That was my 11th team last week. I put them outside the top 11 after the loss just because some other teams, I thought the Steelers at 3-0, all of that was a mistake. They should have been in the top 10. I moved them all the way up from 11 to 12, all the way up to 6 this week. Number 5, the Texans. I think the Texans are just the Texans, guys. Like, I don't know where you guys are at with this. I think the Texans are just going to be in the top 5 all year long, and they're just going to stick there. And whether they win or lose, and I think they still go out there and win 11, 12 games, and they're going to sit there in my top 5 most of the season. Bills, you guys know, I know they lost, but I don't care. The Bills, I had them at number 2 last week. I dropped them down a couple spots after a lot. I still think this Bills team's good. I told the people this. I told the people, the Bills have the toughest schedule in the NFL going forward. They were going to drop games. That Ravens game was one. On the road, it's a tough environment, tough football game. So the Bills, I dropped them down a couple spots for the loss. They're going to bounce back. Number 3, Klotz, this is where I had the Chiefs. I had them at 3. I'm with you. I agree with you that over the last 4 weeks, there were a lot of one-possession games. They've gotten lucky versus the Ravens with the toe being out. They've had games where they have been able to pull away. But sitting there at 4-0 with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, I trust those guys that they're still a top 5 team in the NFL. I dropped them down. I think I had them last week, actually, number 1 in the NFL. I took them down from 1 to 3. I pulled them down because they have been struggling a little bit. You could tell when you watch them, they're not in sync. And Patrick Mahomes said it after the game. We're still trying to figure some things out here. We will get it. That's why we have a full season ahead of us. So I trust them that they're going to do it. I think any team in the NFL, I don't think there's 3 more teams better than the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL, even with injuries or not. When you have those 3 guys, you are one of the best in the NFL. And then 2-1, the Detroit Lions are the number 1 team in football, guys. I don't have much to say about the Vikings. You guys already said it all. I think the Vikings are a really good football team. They're a legit contender for the NFC North. And it feels like they're going to go into the playoffs as a chance to go make noise in the playoffs on the NFC side. But I have been very, very consistent with this, guys, with the Detroit Lions. When that offense plays the way it did last night, this is the best team in football. And with defensively, the issues that they've been having, I think it's stuff that you can fix. It feels like it's a little bit of the secondary issues. Up front looked good. The linebackers look good. It's the corners like, hey, we just have to lock it in a little bit. As soon as this defense in Detroit figures this thing out, and they do what they did week 1, 2, 3 and kind of find all of it and put it together, this is the best team in football. And I think with the offense right now, I think this is the number 1 offense in the NFL. You put the Lions up versus any team in the NFL come this week, they would beat them with the offense that they have and the way the offense is now rolling. Give me the Detroit Lions at number 1 and the Minnesota Vikings at 2. NFC North dominating 1 and 2.
Okay, so I have 2 things I disagree with you completely on. Okay,
all right.
2 things. One, we'll start with the Texans. And you guys both had them. I know I had them like 2 or 3 spots back, so it's not a huge difference. The only thing I don't understand about this list specifically is how can you argue the Texans are better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the very minimum? Like the Texans, and I, a big CJ Stroud guy, here, let me do this so we can, yeah, there you go. Big CJ Stroud guy. But the Texans this season, they beat the Colts by 2. They beat the Bears by a touchdown, essentially, and they beat the Jags, and they came back. And they completely got destroyed by the Vikings. what is there for me to believe that the Texans deserve to be a top 5 team right now? And not just that, but better than the Bucs, who the Buccaneers this season beat the Commanders by 17. They just beat the Eagles, who are a top 10 team to us, and they beat the Lions. They beat 3 top 10 teams in your list this season.
The Eagles are I would say Eagles are.
The Eagles last week were top 10.
Yeah, I think they're. I'm with you a little bit. They are big wins. I mean, I have them literally. What do I have them? I have them 5 and 6. Like, it's interchangeable. So I guess you could argue. Oh, yeah,
I would bump them a little now.
You could flip them maybe. Maybe you flip the Texans to 6 and 5. Like, I don't think that's. I'm not gonna argue with that.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Anything you think? Because I gotta at least bring up your top 3. Unless you want to say something, Klotz, if you have anything.
Yeah, I just don't see the path right now. All of us are Lions fans. I just don't see what the Lions are doing better than the Vikings right now. I don't. I tried.
They have the best offense in the NFL. They have the best offense in the NFL.
So far this season, the Vikings offense averaging 3 more points. They're 4th in points per game. Lions 6th. Defensively, they're allowing a whole touchdown less. So I just opponents yards per game.
You give me
4th, Lions 10th.
Line up the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions right now. The Lions will beat them. Simple as that.
When I say that about the Chiefs,
but I disagree with you. All right, now you're all right. I'll let you go on a tangent.
I'm just saying, if that's the argument I'm
no, it's because you say that about the Chiefs. I don't think that's true about the Chiefs. I think that they play any team. I think they beat them. I just think you have the Lions. Like with the Lions, you could bring up the 4-week stats if you want. But I think what we saw last week with the Detroit Lions offense, that offense is now back. That offense is now back on track. This is the best offense in the NFL. Now, if you play against them, yeah, they have a great defense. This offense right now is the best offense in the NFL with the weapons they have. I believe in the defense that the Lions have. You're just going off 4-week stats. I'm going off what I saw last night.
No,
but they were last night.
But hold on. Hold on. Let me just add this real quick because I want to let you guys argue, but I let you guys argue now. I just want to make this point. Okay, based on you're saying the offense for the Lions is back. The Vikings, there is no back. They've been good.
They have been.
Year. They beat the Texans in the 49ers back-to-back weeks, and they allowed 24 points combined between the 49ers and the Texans.
The Lions at their best are better than the Vikings. The Lions last night.
It's now.
Right now, after last night. And they were at their best last night. And the Lions at their best are better than the Minnesota Vikings. And last night, after what I saw, that offense is the best in the entire NFL.
The Ravens should be up there too because
I have them in my top 10. I have them in my top 10.
But that's my point though. We're not going off just like I don't.
We could argue about this all day. You guys keep arguing. There's literally nothing I could say for you guys to be like, okay, I get that. Like nothing. Well, let's just. I'm not arguing. You guys will just argue until it's done.
You just argued.
You just did the same thing for our list. What are you talking about?
I don't know what I could say here.
Stand on business, Boone.
I keep saying it. You're just like, oh no, you guys are ignoring what I'm saying. I think. Wait, no, hold on. I'll say it one more time. I think that the Detroit Lions have the best offense in the NFL. Is that any clearer? Now you can bring any stats up you want. Won't change it. They are the best offense in the NFL. No. Listen, clear, done. That's literally all I'm saying. That's my point. There is no more like stats. I don't care about stats. I saw what I saw last night. They are the best offense in the NFL. Give me them over anyone right now. I don't care how good they played in 4 weeks. That is the best offense in the NFL.
I
don't have to.
Booner, I'll give you that.
I don't have to feel how you feel,
Booner,
buddy.
you call Booner. Okay, so offense, I'll give you that. I'll let you have that. Defense, not even close. Not even close. Minnesota Vikings, if you want to say the Lions have the number 1 offense, I'll let you say that. Vikings are at least 2 or 3. Then you go defensively.
Who has the best overall ranking and this and that? It's who do you think is the best football team?
Who's playing the best football right now?
Offense.
I think after last night, I'm giving it to the Lions. That's just my opinion.
I just disagree. I just don't see how you can come to that decision after one night when it. Yeah, you have the fucking Minnesota Vikings and behind the Detroit. Yeah, I don't see how you can do that. I think unanimously we'll use your argument. You look all around national media, the Minnesota Vikings are 1 in pretty much everything. I don't see how you can't have them at 1. The Vikings, I agree with you.
Vikings have a great stretch of football, man. That's awesome. Be the number 1 team. 4 weeks of football. Lions have been doing this for a while now.
But then the Chiefs should be 1 because
the Chiefs are 3. They're winning one possession
You
games.
can't-
The Lions are the best team in football right now.
But do you see the reason why we're like, because when we challenge the number one team thing, you say, well, I don't care. The Lions have been doing it. Like this isn't like power rankings the last 2 years. This is
I
power
know,
rankings
but that's
for
what you
this
guys are bringing
season.
up. You're bringing up stats for the last 4 weeks now. I'm talking about
But
what happened last night.
Take the stats out of it. Look, when we look at the Vikings look better. Like they just look better. They look better
good.
the entire season. That's what we're.
I have them at
4 weeks
2.
now.
Your guys' problem with my list is literally moving 5 and 6 and 1 and 2. Like,
well, yeah, you call Commanders and Falcons. We argued about. We're gonna argue a spot. That's what.
but
we
I'm
do.
all right. All right.
We argue. We're just we disagree with your number one team, and we're challenging it. And you don't want to. Hey, it's okay.
No, I answered, and you guys just will never accept. I could have said anything. You guys.
You just said I don't care what anybody says. This is what I think.
I
Like,
don't.
okay.
You guys are giving me these stats, and you're like, you should have them number 2. It's like, no, dude. I watched the game last night. They have the best offense in the NFL. Nothing's changing my mind off that.
But where's like defense come into play?
The defense
my-
has looked good at times. They struggled last night. They had injuries. Brian Branch was out. Derek Barnes just got hurt. They're trying to figure out the pass rush situation right now. Like Malcolm Rodriguez stepped up. Like there was 12 or 9 penalties defensively that they need to get together. Like the offense you have, if you're able to win a game by 2 possessions and your defense played that way, imagine what happens next week if you go in versus Dallas and your defense turns it on. You're going to win by 4 possessions.
But you're making our point. Like the Vikings have.
Oh my gosh! Every team isn't perfect. You guys are
but the Vikings have been like close to damn perfect.
and I think the Lions are still a better football team at their best. I don't know what else you want me to say.
But we don't. Okay,
You don't even have the Vikings at number 1.
I have
my
at
thing
2.
is
They're above the Lions
All right. So why don't you have them
My
number
thing
1
is,
if they're
so-
the closest thing to perfect in the NFL?
because the Chiefs and them are undefeated. I'd give the Chiefs. We agree with the Chiefs take. Like I think I would give the Chiefs the nod because
All
Patrick
right, I'm just
Mahomes-
wondering. You should then.
Okay, well if you're upset because you're getting challenged, that's on you.
I'm not that I'm going to challenge. It's just like listen. Like, this
You're
is my
upset
point.
that we're challenging your number 1 team. I mean, I think
All
I think the Vikings should be higher than the Lions, and I would put the Chiefs 1. That's where I'm at. That's how my top 3 was aligned, at least. I just, you know what? These lists are subjective. If you think it's however you rank it, so whatever. If you think, then I take into account, I guess, how teams look, I guess, and then on top of that, you sprinkle in some other things. But the Vikings have to be top. They have to be higher than the Lions at this point,
They
in my
don't.
opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. In your opinion, I respect that. In your opinion, you can have your own opinion. I don't care. I'm not gonna. But that's my opinion.
Okay. I just disagree with your opinion, and that's fine.
All right, that's
All right.
perfectly fine. I do not care.
Well, that's what you gotta bring some juice back. You know, you gotta tell me why. You can't say, "Well, I don't care."
I did tell you why.
You just said
They have the best offense in the NFL.
but it's okay. All right.
Is that not a good reason? Like
It's
I think their
not
best
really,
offense
to
is
be
the
honest.
best.
And
How
they
is
have
it
not
not?
looked like the best offense in the NFL. It's just not true.
Yet
They
last
looked-
night they did. Did they
last
not?
night they did. This isn't 1 week power
Oh
ranking.
my gosh.
Boone, my whole
But
issue
okay,
is
that's not unbelievable.
My
I'm done.
whole-
Let's
Boone,
move
my
on. I
whole-
don't even want to argue this anymore. That's crazy. You're like they have the best offense in the NFL, but it's
No, I didn't say
absolutely
that. I didn't say
last
that.
night you
I
said they did
I
last
said
night.
last night, they
But it's
looked like the best
absolutely
offense. But
absurd
guess
that
what?
I can have
the
them
Ravens
number 1.
looked like the best team against the Bills. Put them 1.
They looked good.
Put them 1. Put them 2. The Ravens dominated a top team. Put them up 1 game, guys. Put them up there. But we don't do
my
that.
whole
We have to take into account the season. Sorry to interrupting you, but that's why I don't take 1 game and be like, they look good, put them 1. Like, or else the Ravens should be 2 or 3.
and I hear you. Like the Detroit Lions offense looked very good. Like I'm not denying that they looked like the best offense in the NFL last year. But there's still a huge side of the ball that the Minnesota Vikings are pretty much dominating everybody. When you look at who they're playing, that's the defensive side of the ball. And last night the Detroit Lions gave up like 500 total yards. The Minnesota Vikings haven't sniffed that in 1 game, and they've played teams that arguably, you can't say it objectively, are better than the Seahawks. And like when you look at what they did to CJ Stroud has never looked like he did when they were playing Brian Flores and Minnesota Vikings. That's when I watched that and I'm like, okay, that's why you seriously have to respect that, because CJ Stroud, I know he's young, but he pretty much looks efficient against any defense that he plays. He could hardly get across midfield. That's why I think you got to take that into account. I know that wasn't this week, but the defense hasn't lit off. They went into Lambeau, Jordan Love returning, and Sam Darnold looked like he was fucking Brett Favre in Lambeau. Like the throws that he was getting to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison coming back. That's why I'm just like, I hear what you're saying. I'm not denying the part about the Lions offense, but I do think just the overall team as far as how they're playing right now, you got to give it to the Vikings.
Well, what about your Kool-Aid jugs, Boone? Who are you giving those out to?
I mean, we might as well just go into mailbag. We'll do those tomorrow.
Boone, you did this.
Let's just go to mailbag. We've got
us.
15 minutes left. We've 5 minutes until mailbag. I have 3 Kool-Aid chugs. It's going to take more than 5 minutes. Let's just get to mailbag. I have 3. It's going to take longer than 5 minutes, fellas.
All right, Boone.
We don't have enough time. We just went on two dumb arguments.
You see, he's okay. All right.
Am I wrong?
You're okay. I'm not even gonna add to it. Actually, I think you should prioritize the content. We should do Kool-Aid jugs before.
All right, let's do the Kool-Aid jugs.
Yeah,
can you pull them up?
I have them up already. All right, there you go.
Put it whoever you want up on the.
All right. See, this is good. This is what we want to do. All right, let's do it.
All right, the Kool-Aid jugs.
First one.
Obvious one. Jared Goff gets the first Kool-Aid jug of the week. There's no question. I don't know how Dan Campbell didn't give him a game ball after the game. He got one today. Jared effing Goff. You see in the graphic there, 18 for 18, 292 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown. The man was electric. All the Jared Goff haters, I don't care. I don't ever want to hear from you again. Don't ever talk to me again. Jared Goff gets the first Kool-Aid jug of the week. Who's the next one? Bring up the next one. Give me Kirby Joseph. Bring Kirby Joseph up. Give me Kirby Joseph. I want Kirby.
Let me see. Hold on.
Kirby Joseph. Second Kool-Aid jug of the week. 9 tackles, a tackle for a lost pass deflection, and he had 1 game-sealing interception to end it. He said, I'm tired of this. I don't want to no more. We're not playing games defensively anymore. Let me end this. This is one of the best safeties in the NFL right now. And then you get Brian Brancher back, and guess what? Another one of the best safeties in the NFL. You have 2 probably top 10 safeties in the NFL on your defense right now. And Kirby Joseph had an unbelievable football game yesterday. He deserves a Kool-Aid jug. And last Kool-Aid jug, are you guys ready?
Hit Boone.
The man, the myth, the legend, Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson deserves a final Kool-Aid jug. I'm consistent with my takes. I love to stay on track with them. And I'll say this. The Lions had the best offense in the NFL yesterday. What Ben Johnson did, the scheme he put together, the play calling that he had, getting the offense back on track, outside of maybe that one play where there was the safety, which he was trying to end the game. Outside of that, he called a perfect game. Like a perfect game. 42 points, 5 for 5 in the red zone, the play calling, and Ben Johnson, guys, he is officially back. He is here to stay. I think now that he's finally figured out how this offense rolls and how to get these guys together, that there's no stopping this offense going forward. I can't see a way that you're going to be able to stop the weapons on this offense and Jared Goff and Ben Johnson and the offensive line, the running backs you have. Zero chance. And Ben Johnson has, after I wouldn't say criticism, but there were some conversations where at least me, said Ben needs to step up. Like Ben needs to figure this thing out. And he stepped up and he did it. All respect to Ben Johnson, one of the best in the entire game.
Very well said, Boone. Hey, those third quarter woes, to your point, gone. At least this week. We knock on wood. Hopefully we can keep it going. But those third quarter woes, I think they scored 2 touchdowns in that game
14
in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And that the Lions, if they don't do that, they'd be up by 1. But you got to think Seattle had that 2-point attempt, so that could have just changed the whole scope of the game, just the game flow, everything they needed that third quarter. Ben Johnson stepped up, so I love it. Kirby, can't say much more about him. I think he's been the best defensive back outside of Brian Branch this year. And Jared Goff, best game of his, arguably, maybe not statistically as far as production, but efficiently, arguably one of the best of his career.
All right, let's see. Anakin, Mailbag, as a high school cornerback myself, I feel like it's too early to bench Arnold. What do you recommend to help cut down his penalties? Like, it's pretty simple. I think just for him, it's just getting adjusted to the league. Just not be.
Just keep getting.
You see Sauce's tweet. Sauce said he should stand a little higher when he in his press, like stance. That's what he was saying just watching the game, and I think it would cut down some penalties. It's just his physicality. That's really what it is.
It's just all it is. It's like there's 3 phases to playing corner. Obviously, recognizing the play, so run, pass, being able to recognize that, follow your receiver, stay in phase, and then 3, get your head around, turn, and find the ball. Terrion's doing a great job at the first 2. and he's inconsistent at that last one. Like, he's still making plays where they're throwing deep shots down the field, and he's right in the receiver's hip, and they can't make a play on it. It's just the only way he's going to work it out is obviously with Aaron Glenn coaching it up, and then just through gameplay. So, like, Terrion Arnold, I wish there was a betting line for it as far as penalties compared to like the last half of the season playoffs. Like, these will get cut down. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. He's good. When I look at Terrion, I just look at it as a guy who's overly aggressive, but he still stays in phase. A lot of times, if you're overly aggressive corner, you get burnt because you can't recover. Terrion can recover, and when you look at that, it's just one of those things in the process. When it clicks, Terrion's going to be a very, very, very good corner in this league because he can tackle too.
All right. Tyler says, can you guys ask Doc to suggest to AG that this cornerbacks practice with boxing gloves on? Yeah, I mentioned that put on mittens, help out with some of the penalties. A couple of them were BS, but a couple of them were like, okay, a little ridiculous. All right. Ball don't lie. Mailbag. Which team gets Devontae?
Trying to think, they got to send him out the AFC.
No clue.
You don't keep him in the AFC. You look at NFC teams that need a wide receiver that can actually like need Devontae Adams to go and get one.
Mm-hmm.
NFC North, I don't see anybody in the receiver stacked. NFC South,
Jets,
maybe the Falcons.
Again.
I don't think they're gonna try to keep him in the AFC because think about like both of those guys. I think Bills. We changed my mind. They win the AFC East, and the Jets potentially could be wild card. That's what the Raiders are trying to get to. They know they're not winning that. They could match up with them in the playoffs potentially.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would say maybe like we talk about the Falcons potentially. NFC
Commanders.
West. Commanders would be a great one, Boone, because they wanted to get Ayuk. Maybe the Cardinals. Could you imagine Devontae Adams and Marvin Harrison? Woo, that'd be filthy. A couple of them. He's got to go NFC, though. I don't see him staying inside the AFC. I think it'd be fun to watch him on the Steelers right now, too.
Let's see here. I saw Roman with the nails painting thing. Yeah, this guy sent me a graphic and snuck in like a Caleb Williams, like just little
Big
like
dub this weekend, Jeff.
What'd you say?
Big dub this weekend for Caleb. Finally threw over like 60%.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to him.
Shane Waldron. I just saw some. I was watching some stuff. It was about JSN. I don't know who put it out, but it was like JSN's route tree with Shane Waldron and JSN's route tree without Shane Waldron. And then it's like DJ Moore's route tree before Shane Waldron and his route tree now. And his route tree, he has like 4 routes now with Shane. It's like 4 simple routes. And then before he was like all over the field, moving left. Like Shane is awful. And I think the players like called him out too. Like they had a meeting and shit. I don't know. It's bad. All right. Let's see. I saw another question here I want to get to. If I can find it here. I just lost it. Dang it. Where's this at? Oh, Steve, we'll start with you. Mailbag. If Arnold struggles against the Cowgirls, do you see them giving Ennis a lot more reps moving forward?
No, I just don't. I think that's one of those. I think I'm interested to see what you guys think, but I think Ennis starts getting on the field when like Amik would start to struggle versus like Carlton or Terrion. I just think. I think
Terrion's going to be just fine. Like I think that he's going to figure this out. I'm honestly, I was shocked to see people being like bench him. Like I know the penalties is tough, but like that was a tough game yesterday. The 3 great wide receivers you're going up against, and like he's a rookie. He's in his 4th game in the NFL. Like he's talented. It's just about adjusting to the game and figuring things out. Like he's not going to get benched.
Chilio says, Mailbag, do you think that we acquire an edge at the deadline? I do. I've been saying that since probably after the draft, to be honest with you. And I think they still do. That's going to be the trade they make at the deadline, get an edge. It doesn't have to be this big name like Trey Hendrickson. Would love it, but I think they get somebody. Josh played, and we didn't really talk about him. We'll probably talk more about him tomorrow. But he played fine. I just think they need more pass rush, like someone who can win consistently one-on-one, or at least above average. So I think they do. Mr. Detroit City Mailbag, Raiders straight away, Dia Adams to the Jets. Then we ship J-Mo, Houston, Hooker in 2 firsts, 2 seconds.
No, I'm not getting rid of J-Mo.
Even if it's Rick Crosby?
No, not doing it.
Shit. I love J-Mo.
No, I'm not getting rid of J-Mo.
I do.
Add someone else in it. You don't need to do that. That trades. It's not. That would never happen. You don't have to
agree.
give that much up for Max Crosby.
But I'm just saying, like Max Crosby and Hutch with
How
Kirby,
often?
Brian
Yeah,
Brandt,
I'm
and
with you on that. But how often do you see in the NFL a trade with like 4 players? Never.
no. I'm sure like I'm just saying, like if you were to do like J-Mo and a couple pieces for Max Crosby, I love J-Mo, but I'd pull that trigger.
Yeah, I think James Houston's done.
Yeah, did James Houston kill his chances at getting playing time?
He had one of the worst PFF grades. He looked terrible. He had the flags. Like
2 of them, yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough.
And literally, like the first snap he came, then like, oh, James Houston, he got bullied. Like just he tripped, he got sucked down in the center. Like there was he stood no chance.
All right, let's see here. Put your questions in the chat, man. Any questions, any thoughts, any concerns? We got about 5 minutes left, so we can answer them. I thought James Houston, to be honest with you, he's out. I just don't see him coming back from what happened. He just didn't look good. He didn't look like he had the same athleticism he had his rookie year. It's quite simple. I think the injury, him recovering, it seems like the coaching staff doesn't really trust him. They gave him some run. He just absolutely bombed. So that's probably that makes me more in favor of getting an edge. That's where I'm at. Stephen Clark says Houston could be included in a trade for Hassan Reddick. Yeah, I don't know.
I think James Houston has like the stock value of like a comp 7th round pick. Like if you like his stock dropped after yesterday. Like just getting bullied by a 3rd string right tackle. That doesn't look good.
Yeah, and Hassan Reddick wants a deal, obviously. So that doesn't really make sense for the Lions. Great player. It's someone I actually argued for way before all the BS came out in the drama. But yeah, I don't see that happening. There's no way. I mean, I'm curious what happens moving forward with James Houston. I think they could be. I mean, this is definitely his last year as a Lion.
Yeah.
So
they don't even need to go get, like, to your point, a Trey Hendrickson. Just get a guy that can win one-on-ones. Doesn't even have to be every time, but just enough to, like, from weeks, we'll say trade deadline, usually week 8, around there. From week 8 to week 17, and even including the playoffs, get 6-7 sacks. Like, it doesn't have to be each game. Like, if there's every other game, get half a sack, 1 sack, have an impact against the run. But I don't see how you can be taken seriously when going up against, like, for example, the Buffalo Bills, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, teams like that. Just hot, like in the playoffs, you get to the Super Bowl and you have a rotation of Josh Pascal and James Houston going on the edge. I just don't like that. They're going to expose that.
Shane says Mailbag. T. Patrick looked good. I think he's our Reynolds replacement. You guys agree? I agree.
Yes,
and I said he's more of your J-Mo replacement from last year. Like J-Mo had 300 yards, like because J-Mo's your Josh replacement this year. So yes, absolutely agree with that. Let's see. There's another comment about who. I think it's from Christian. Which DN do we get at the deadline? I don't know. It's a good question.
Be interesting to see what they do.
It's the $1 million question. With the guys that might be available. We'll see what happens with the Bengals. Hopefully they keep losing. They're AFC, Lions are NFC. I mean,
give me Trey Hendrickson, baby.
It could make a lot of sense there. And I'm curious. If Bengals, I don't know who they play this week, but I mean
Bengals,
won.
They have the let me look. They got the Ravens.
Yeah, because they just beat the Panthers and then they face the Ravens. So we'll see. They lose this one, drop to 1-4.
Yeah. Then they got, then they kind of coasting after that. Then they got the Giants, Browns, Eagles, Raiders. Then they got the Ravens again.
Oh, someone
They're
said
gonna be fighting.
Trey Hendrickson got hurt. Is that true?
He
had a neck injury. Oh gosh.
Spotted wearing sling on his arm.
Not good. Not good.
Hey, Brad likes trying to play with those fellas. That's
John Hughes says Jags lost again. Josh Allen. They just paid him, so
I don't know if they're.
I don't think they would ever trade him.
Move on from Josh Allen.
I don't think they would ever. I don't think they would ever trade him.
Like the Dolphins are struggling right now. Even if they were to go and trade for like Calais Campbell, like just somebody like that.
Just another guy. Probably get someone on that defense. Just a guy, like I said, I don't see a realistic. I hope it could be Trey Hendrickson or Max Crosby. It ain't going to be Max Crosby, number one, but Trey Hendrickson, probably not. But maybe you can get some of these guys that are like middle tier that can come in and help you.
Even like we were kind of talking about earlier, Jeff, but even if it's an outside linebacker, if you want to roll like 5-man fronts and just bring somebody down that can play like that Sam spot, like it doesn't have to be net. Get another Sam, especially while Derek Barnes is hurt.
That's what the Ravens are doing with Kyle Van Noy. Calvin
He's good.
He's been pro. He's played for like 5 teams, but each team that he goes to, he's just good. Not great, but good.
Or he's playing well. But tomorrow we'll get into more of the other storylines we kind of missed today. But again, appreciate all you guys. Man, continue to support. We just passed 9.6 thousand, trying to reach 10,000. So until then, be here tomorrow. The doc will be on tomorrow. It's Wednesday, so that'll be fun. 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. We'll see you guys live. Continue to show support and get your merchandise, officialctsports.com. Until tomorrow, we'll catch you guys. See ya.
Peace.